Scott McNally, coach, producer, and 12-year podcast host of Think Big Bodybuilding Media, bodybuilding nerd, It's Just Bodybuilding, and a host of other podcasts.
It was the darkest place I had ever been in my life, and I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to get out. Frequency was just a simple missing piece that it opened my world to something completely new and different, creating major long-term maskings. It'll blow you up, man. I don't even really think this is going to work, but I'll try it. So I picked some up, and oh my God, dude, I felt totally restored. And then we've had other listeners that were starting to run it, and I was having everybody check inflammation markers. I'd say, listen, if you're going to run it, let's check inflammation, check your liver before you start, and then let's do it again 6 weeks in and see what's actually happening here. And there was no changes. There was nothing you wouldn't expect from any other compound.
Do you happen to be using any peptides right now, or any that you're a proponent of?
It was actually somebody who was on Ben Pekulski's podcast a while back.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny as hell. I've been in contact with Ben Pekulski for like a year and a half now. That guy is so busy, man.
Oh, yeah.
We got like an appointment to like do a podcast, and then last second, then he's unable to, and it's like just back to back. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what this guy's doing, but
there's the people out there like that, right? I give you credit though, man, because you're freaking nailing it. I know how much work goes into it. I don't do nearly as many interviews as I used to. I used to do like one a week every week for 100 episodes. And like, I'm watching you, man, just you make it look easy.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. I'm still deciding whether or not I think it's easy or not.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, enjoying it definitely makes a huge difference, right? But
yeah, no, and you can see that too. You can tell you're having fun with it.
Yeah. I think it's the only thing that I actually have fun with, to be honest, that I'm doing right now. I know you've been in this field for like a really long time, and I've been a big fan of your podcast for a minute now, but I didn't realize until recently that you were in the thousands when it came to episodes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know what the actual number is, but we did like 400 and something Bodybuilding Nerds Radio. That was the first show.
Okay.
And then there's got to be a good 500 plus from Advices Radio. And now there's been another 700 or so, maybe 800 from Think Big. So yeah, it's just you'll find out, man. You just keep doing it. They add up.
When did you start?
2014, I think.
2014. Jesus, dude, that's insane.
Oh my God, dude. The first time that we did a podcast, we had to, like, we didn't have, like, nobody could teach you this technology, first of all. So we had Skype. I was calling VJ, my partner, through Skype, and he would hold, what did he do? He was like playing it through the speakers on his computer and then recording my voice coming through the speakers on GarageBand. Like, that's how he got my voice. Yeah. And then he was speaking into a microphone. Yeah. Yeah. But it worked for a while.
Do you know anyone that was before you in terms of podcasting in the bodybuilding industry?
Yeah, there were 4 main podcasts. There was, so Dave Palumbo.
Dave,
Dave had been around since like 06, maybe 05.
Yeah.
He had, before Heavy Muscle, he had Noble Radio with John Romano, and they did that over on MD. That was one of the early ones. And they were like the only show that would occasionally talk about gear. Like nobody else would. And then you had Dan Solomon and Bob Ciccarello doing Pro Bodybuilding Weekly. It was called at the time. Later became Pro Bodybuilding Worldwide. And I learned so much about like who was who from the sport then. Like back then it was like guys that like, cause it was the magazines still, you know? So you'd see the guys in the magazines, you could buy the DVDs, you could listen to the show and you'd hear like, oh, who's this Silvio Samuel guy that like, I didn't know about him any other way, but like they had details on these people. And then you'd see the shows and then they would talk about him. And it was kind of like, okay, yeah, I get it. I see what's going on here. You know, start to figure out like which guys you like, who are your favorite, who's this Dennis Wolf character that's up and coming, stuff like that, you know? Yeah. And then a little bit later, there was a program called Project Bodybuilding, and they had several shows. Skip was on that. And then from there, we started doing Bodybuilding Nerds Radio, which all we did was we're like, hey, we love listening to like the 4 bodybuilding podcasts that exists. And like, that was it, man. There's like 4 of them. Let's do a podcast where we just talk about our favorite podcasts. So we just like, would be like, oh, we do a show. We talk about our training, like what's going on with your training, Vij, and we train together too. So we talk about like, oh, we went to IHOP and ate pancakes on Thursday night. That was fun. And then we talk about like, oh, dude, did you hear heavy muscle this week? Did you hear what Dave said? You know, and then we just like go off for an hour or two on that. Just to, I think the tagline was like a couple nerds who love all things bodybuilding. And that's really all it was. Yeah. And then from there, I was like, you know what? I want to do interviews. And our format didn't allow us because we had like set up segments. Like we did, you know, our intro, we did training talk, we did a supplement review. And then we had these things set up. So we could do an interview and it didn't work right. So I was like, I want to do something else. And so I started Advices Radio. And as a coach, that allowed me, like, who's like, dude, I'm like, first of all, let me, for anybody who doesn't know me, I am not a great bodybuilder. I never was, but I absolutely love the sport. And I absolutely have put my freaking heart into it. And I've gotten so much reward from doing it. And then so much reward then from helping other people beyond that. And people were coming to me locally and I started coaching them. And so I was like, you know what, man, this gives me an opportunity to talk to people that I wouldn't have a chance to talk to any other way. So I started doing interviews with these people and then I started to get to know them. And then it just kept snowballing from there, you know? Now some of those guys are my best friends. So
it's cool how it works like that, right?
Yeah. I bet you see that too, man, because you probably meet so many new people. You have so many in-depth conversations, you know?
Yeah. So I feel like the best way for me to explain it is I wasn't a very sociable person growing up, especially since I was bullied a lot. Didn't really have very many friends, didn't have any siblings. I felt kind of like awkward. And it's always been like that up till like college. I don't know, man. I was a little bit of a tool, bro. Probably still am. But it was just, I feel like genuine connection. I feel like my mind tended to work in a fashion where I was thinking, honestly, like social cues were being missed and I didn't get that. I could just talk to somebody and be present and care about how they feel and care about what they think and care about what their opinions are and just care. I think it's more of just like, how do I get accepted, or how do I be accepted by the people around me? How do I you know, have fun and get the things that I want or something? And just, I don't know, it was a very different mindset. And I think it was not till I moved to San Diego and I felt like I could open up with people that slowly became my friends, regardless of what my past was like or, you know, my opinions, is when I realized that there were things that were just so much more important that I could focus on. Yeah. And life wasn't about just trying to climb your way to the top and trying to be a part of something or trying to be accepted or any of these other things. You know what I mean? So
it's cool that you found that out at your age, because I feel like that's the kind of thing that you could go through your whole life and never quite get, you know, and just keep trying to do the same thing.
I do. And I also feel like some people also just don't even have to go through that. Like some people from the beginning, you know, with their families, like they just get what it's like to just fucking be with my family and love being with these people. You know what I mean? But I never really had that. So I think mine was just really, I don't know, man, mine's weird. But I mean, now that the last 10 years I've been surrounded by really great people. It feels like second nature. And I've always had trouble like speaking publicly, but I realized like my favorite thing and the thing that makes me feel the most connected in the world is having friends, you know, friends that I fuck with and friends that I can talk about fucking shit with and just share these experiences with. And even the coolest friends are kind of like the people that love doing the shit that you do and the people that you look up to, right? Like you're the average of like the 3 to 5 people that you're surrounding yourself with. Right. So I think having this podcast was honestly just like the biggest blessing for me, because then I could dive into the place where I felt fulfilled and that I enjoy the most, and that I know that's also going to help me grow.
I love that.
In a place that I just never focused on. So,
and I bet that you probably didn't set out to get that. You know what I mean? You're like, you don't like start the podcast thinking to yourself like, oh, these are the lessons I'm planning to learn from it. You know, like it just happens along the way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it had happened along the way, but then I start realizing, you know, you start realizing that just by being present and paying attention and caring about other people, it's pretty easy to learn from those experiences yourself, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is stuff that I still need to think about, honestly.
I like it, man. I think it's important to kind of like keep digging deep like that.
Yeah. What's up, homies? I'm back at my new place now in Vegas, and we just came out with some new shirts for the Transparent merch. None of the basic shit. Now we got some new sick styles, a little bit of a metal and rock inspired, some other shit, and then also a bunch of new colors. So if you guys want to check that out on the site, that's www.icons, spelled AYKONS, icons.com/Nile. That'll automatically apply the Nile discount code and get you right to the site where we have the new designs up. And some of the stuff like the cutoff are 380 GSM French terry cotton, so pretty high quality stuff that were helped design by my boy Dion, one of my best friends in the world. This is the guy that he and I went through a lot in life in the last decade as our best friend Ryan passed away, and I'm really happy that I got to do this with him. But anyways, this is out, so if you guys ever need anything or you have any complaints, I'm fucking here. Just let me know. Let's ride this shit out and grab life by the balls, baby. Peace. But I wanted to ask you, because you seem to go through a crazy journey yourself, and that's kind of what made me think about this in the first place. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience that haven't heard, so I'd love to hear the whole story. But like through your drug experiences, and then also how training and the gym ended up being for you is something that I kind of relate to. So I was hoping to just ask that you, like, what was the first experience that you had with bodybuilding, and what was this experience growing up that, you had this association with drugs?
So, well, with the bodybuilding side of things, like I'll call it weightlifting to start. My parents were both into it, and they would go up to what was the Wayne Recreational Center. It was a city of Wayne. It was a town next to ours, and it's just a little community center. But they had decent equipment there, and they had some people that were like going hard too. And my mom and dad both trained there. They'd go up separately, and my mom would take me up, and I'd like sit in like a little play area. I'd hang out in the play area, and then when I went with my dad on Saturdays, I could actually go to the gym floor. And now, like, I'm a little kid, man, like 6 to 8. And I had like a duffel bag with like coloring books in it, draw. I was learning how to draw. I did a lot of art when I was a kid. And so like, I'm off to the side, just sitting like under the mirrors, just like drawing pictures and stuff. And my dad and his friends lifted him. Now my dad, he wasn't like super serious into it. He lifted, he stayed in shape. This is the 80s. So he was also into competitive table tennis. So like that was his thing. So picture this like real slim dude with like those little tiny Nike shorts, little tiny Nike tank top, this long beard, and him like just tearing it up playing table tennis. But he lifted, and his friends lifted. And I got to know those people, and a couple of those guys were bodybuilders. And it was like through them, the guy who ran the place, he was a real meathead. His name was Lauren. He's no longer with us. But Lauren, for instance, brought over Pumping Iron on VHS. And at this era, like nobody had in our neighborhood, like nobody we knew had VHS. We were the only people. We got a VHS player. And so everybody came over from the gym to like watch Pumping Iron. So I'm like, I wanted to sit in and see like, what's everybody here to watch? And so like, that was my first experience with bodybuilding, was being around those people. And this was like early 80s. And then, seeing Arnold being taken to the supplement shop, which was like kind of like more of a hippie herb supplement shop, but they had like some protein powder and some ginseng and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, so like going to those places and learning those things, I started lifting then on my own. Like nobody told me like, hey, you should get into it. I just got into it because that's what I saw. And I did that for a few years, like from the time I was like 11 or 12. And then I got into it and like actually had, by the time I was like 12, I had like a split,
Mm-hmm.
And, I was teaching the neighborhood kids how to lift, and some of those guys went on to compete later on. Like they kept with it, stayed with it through high school. I then turned like 15, and I just got like really depressed, and my mood just like something changed. And have you
kind of figured out what that was for you, or do you have an idea?
Man, I don't know, honestly. I just feel like, here's what I've learned. I've recognized that there are some people that are wired to be addicts. Like there's just some people out there that's how they're wired. And I'm one of those people. That doesn't mean that I'm destined to then go out and use, it's still my choice. I'm not making like excuses here to say like, but I there was something that drew me to a darker side. And so I started hanging out with a different group of kids and started smoking and drinking and just freaking rebelling, like just totally rebelling. And it got dark. I ended up getting into a pretty dark place. Like before I was even 21. I remember my 21st birthday thinking to myself, like, and at this point I was using hard drugs. And I remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, all these other people, like they turn 21 and they want to go to the bar. Like,
Yeah.
I am so beyond that. I have no interest in that. I hung out at that time with people who were like in their 30s and 40s, people who had been involved with bike clubs, people who literally had stories about robbing pharmacies, like dark stuff. There were people that died. And, like to me, I'm like, at 21 going to the bar and celebrate. Like, it just like, I'm so much cooler and darker than that. It was my whole way of being, but it really caught up with me. Without, there was a few rock bottoms. I hit my first one around that time. And then from there, I got back into lifting for a couple of years. Now, here's the thing. So I stuck with it for about a year and a half or so. I even took some nutrition classes because I started going to school for photography. And they also had another program that I started doing, like an exercise class, weightlifting class, and some nutrition stuff. But then I really went deep in photography, and eventually, like, to fast forward, because the story is, quite long and I don't want to bore everybody with all the details. I want to get like to the important stuff. 2005, was like my darkest point, and using drugs was no longer fun. I used drugs off and on at various periods. I went really dark in 2005. I lived out of the state. I was working in photography. I moved back to Michigan, and it was like fall. All right. And Michigan,
do you mind me asking,
dark. Yeah.
Do you mind me asking around how old you were?
I would have been at this point about 30-ish, something like that. So yeah, thank you for helping me kind of piece this timeline together. But, basically, I hate this rock bottom. And it was the darkest place I had ever been in my life. And I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to get out. I mean, I'm talking like, I don't like to get into specifics with what was my drug of choice. And the reason I don't like doing that is because I don't want anybody else out there who hears this message to feel like they can't relate. Because a lot of times if you like, oh, I like drinking, and somebody's like, oh, I never did drinking. I was into this, like people will disqualify themselves from hearing the message if you start getting into like the real close specifics. So, I'll say though, that I was basically like, every time I used, I overdosed. It was dark. I remember using and passing out and waking up and it being dark outside. Like it was afternoon last time I looked. And I'm thinking to myself, the first thought in my head was, well, when was the last time I used? Because if I don't use again, I'm going to get sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally just woke up from basically having overdosed for hours. I'm asleep on the floor. Like just, it was dark, So I went to treatment, and with that, I decided like, I can't ever do this again. And the thing that really changed that time was I saw how much I hurt my girlfriend. I don't know why, man, but in addiction, like I never saw how I hurt the people around me. Like I never saw how worried my parents were. I never saw like how my friends, or loved one, like I never could see that. My thought was always like, well, yeah, it sucks for you, but imagine me. It's my life. It's my choice, is the way I kind of felt. I never really thought about how much I hurt others. And so for the first time, I realized that. I'm like, oh God, I felt like so terrible. I never want to do that again. So here's the thing now, at the same time, I didn't want to change. Like I didn't want to change who I was, but I also didn't want to do what I had done. So I looked really hard at myself, and I was like, man, you know what? When I was a kid, when I was like 20, I was going to school and, lifting, at school, that was cool. And when I was a kid and I was lifting, that was cool. And, training from 12 to 15, I never really made any progress. And then training from like 20 to 21 and a half, or 21 to 22, somewhere, whatever that was, after I had gotten clean that first time. Like I didn't do it long enough to really like make real gains. So I said to myself, like, okay, I'm like early 30s now. What would have happened had I gone down that path instead? So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. If it's if there's any time to do it, now's the time. It might not be too late, right? So I started lifting, and I started learning about nutrition. I had never understood like the value of protein before that, and all of a sudden, dude, that was so freeing, because I was like, man, like it's mathematic. Like I put this protein in, and I do the lifting, and I get the results, right? And then I learned about gear, and I'm like, I put this protein in, I lift the weights, and this gear pushes even more protein in. Like, this is fantastic. Like, before that, I was raised to believe that Lee Haney was like solely able to do what he did because of genetics, and you either had the genetics or you didn't. Some guys had a big back, and it was because they had genetics. Some guys had good legs because they had genetics. It never crossed my mind that like you could manipulate this stuff. You could figure out what you need to do for your body. And that's what I think the real beauty is about bodybuilding. Like, I love being able to work with somebody who's really good. It's fun. It's like driving a sports car, and I take that statement, that phrase from Dr. Scott Stevenson, who said those exact words about coaching Dave Henry. He said Dave Henry was like coaching a sports car. You could do anything with him and you could make it work. Like you could drive him so hard and you'd get the results. Like his body just kept responding. And I've had those experiences. It's crazy. You deplete this guy down, right? And you feel like if you were to do this to anybody else, they wouldn't even look like they lifted anymore. Yet he's still able to like win a state level show, and then once you fill him back out, it's like he's going to be pretty serious at junior nationals kind of thing, So it was cool to learn that. And I loved it. I fell in love with it, and I started making real gains. I started making progress, but I still didn't change anything about myself. I didn't change anything about my personality. And with that, what I mean is like the addict mentality is that I can take anything, even great things. I could take something like a video game or a job, making money, whatever, a relationship. I could take those things and like turn them into something negative by being obsessing and continually being compulsive with it. I could turn something fun into something that's pretty perverse, really, is what it comes down to. I never learned how to not do that. I just wanted to always take everything. If I love this, then why don't I take it to the extreme? So I never changed any of that stuff, yet I'm making progress. And people looked at me different at that point because I looked bigger. I had more muscle, and like people started giving me more respect, and I could see that. And I felt like, yeah, I must have really changed until I hurt myself. And when I hurt myself, I was forced to go to the hospital. Hurt my back really bad, dude. I threw my back out so bad. I walked out to my car and I was like, fuck, I don't know how I'm going to get in the car and drive myself home. Like it was bad, dude. And I went straight to an urgent care, and they gave me a shot of Dilaudid. And I was like, oh, this is really nice. After all this time, it's been like 2 years, dude. I'm like, this is really nice. Yeah. I remember this. And even when I was at the hospital and I'm talking to the doctor was like, yeah, you're a big guy, so we're probably going to need to give you more pain meds than our average patient. And I was right there with him. I was like, yeah, I'm a big guy. I'm an athlete. I'm a bodybuilder. You're probably right. I'm not thinking to myself, oh yeah, I've been to treatment before, dude, twice. I've got problems with drugs. I know. I was like, yeah, you're right. This is what I am. This is what I need. And so that set me off again. And so that was like 2005, 2006. Wasn't till 2007 that I actually like finally freaking arrested the addictive process, man. It took me like 2 more years And it was brutal, man. It was brutal. It was tough because that whole time I was seeing how much I hurt everybody in the process. Yeah, I felt out of control from stopping. So that's when I got clean for real. And surprisingly, that's when I got okay at bodybuilding. Like I got more consistent with it. And I was actually able to diet down to do my first show a couple of years after that. And oh my God, dude, being able to actually follow through with something now, like being able to follow through, like and actually reach that, like get into shape and go through the peak. Oh my God, dude. It was one of the most, it gave me so much hope, it gave me it opened my eyes. I was like, holy shit, I'm really capable of this, I'm capable of something. I'm capable, because I found that through my life, I didn't follow through. I would quit early, or I'd be afraid and I'd quit, I'd fail at things just because I didn't believe in myself. And so through bodybuilding, I learned how to believe in myself, man. And it changed my life. And that's what my main goal is now, is to try to help other people have that experience. It's not going to be the same experience I had. You know what I mean? And I don't want to try to give them that, but be it through coaching or through helping people on the podcasts, if I can help somebody get just a little bit closer to reaching their own goals, then I've done something good. Because at the end of the day, man, addiction is freaking selfishness, dude. Like I said, man, you're not thinking of other people. You're only thinking of yourself. So I owe the world a lot, I had taken enough through enough of my life that my job is to give back.
It's cool that you say that, man. I feel like the one place that I relate is, or at least the biggest place I relate is that starting to train and seeing those results and seeing how thrilled I felt when I was 12 had me realize that there was something that I wanted to work for and that I didn't need to just throw my life away, just from being depressed and feeling trapped and feeling like not being good enough.
Yeah.
I think seeing that and having a passion for myself, something that I genuinely wanted to do, not something that other people wanted me to do, not something that my parents wanted me to do, that gave me the vision to see that, holy shit, there's something that I can work for. Kind of like leveling, dude, the only other thing that I probably cared about was leveling up on RuneScape whenever my parents were asleep and I was hacking into the computer. This is the first time I was like, dude, there's actually something that I like doing that I feel like helps me in actual life. Like this actually just propels me forward. I feel like I look better. I feel like I feel better. I feel like as a teenager, other people care more about that. I feel like there's something that matters here, even if my parents say it doesn't, but I want to fucking follow this. And I think that kind of gave me the strength and made me realize that it's really tough being in those places when you do not feel like you have something to work for. You don't have something to fulfill yourself with. And I think if you have an addictive personality, it's in those phases where it falls even darker and it's even harder to climb out of that hole.
It's chaos, dude. Yeah, if you don't have something to focus on, life becomes absolute chaos for people, especially people like myself. That's cool that you found that, and you found it at such a young age.
Yeah, I feel like I feel really lucky that I did. But honestly, the main reason was just because in middle school football, that's when they first introduced us to weights, and I was a little bit stronger than most of the kids at bench press, because I was fat as fuck. And when I was in karate, they would make you do the same amount of push-ups as everybody else.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that shit that my parents were putting me into really helped a lot.
That's cool, man.
I would destroy pizza buffets.
You've got a great physique, man. I told you previously, I was I'm a real fan, and I didn't realize how good you are, because I saw your videos, and I hadn't seen what you looked like, and then I started following you on Instagram, and I was like, oh, this guy's got some wheels on him. You've got a really beautiful physique overall, really cool build, man.
I appreciate it, man. That means a lot. The secret is the lighting, really. Takes a while to find the perfect lighting in the gym.
Yeah. I have good lighting. Believe me, it never worked that well for me.
But I appreciate you for sharing that, dude. I think it's one of the reasons too that I really enjoy having this podcast, and one of the things that made me feel propelled to start it was the discussion around drug use. My belief is that it's a problem when the ship is driving you and you're not driving the ship. Not like complete abstinence or diving into anything that is the cliche bad is bad. You know, I don't think it's so black and white. And I think that's obviously pretty clear in the bodybuilding industry. At least if you want to become the best, then there's kind of some obvious necessaries. Yeah,
you're not going to get super far naturally. And hey, if you want to, there's definitely organizations for that. You can, you know, you're welcome to stick with that. But I feel like for me, I can't imagine not trying to push, you know, my physique, or the idea of bodybuilding to me is like, let's try to see what we're actually capable of with the tools that we have available to us.
Yeah.
You know,
plus I think there's so many more people in the world that do this shit, not bodybuilding, but like trying to utilize drugs, medication, substances, anything around them as tools to better themselves.
Okay.
It's just people just don't talk about it as much because it was drugs, you know. But I think people in the last 5 to 10 years are just starting to talk about it more and more. And really the only people that you ever really talked about it was probably your homies that you were doing drugs with anyways, or you're fucking smoking pot with, or you're drinking alcohol with, or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But none of your coworkers usually.
It is becoming more mainstream though. Like the idea of like, I use nootropics to be more productive at work, that kind of thing. Like, you know, or, hey, I'm on T. They don't say like testosterone, I'm on T, or now it's TRT. You know, like there are so many people that are like, hey, I don't want to just live. I want to optimize my life. And that goes absolutely well beyond bodybuilding.
Everyone's just following the bodybuilding industry, man. They're just a little bit behind. They're finally realizing though.
It's been that way, man, for a long time, right? As far as some of the cutting edge stuff, like we're the guinea pigs, we try stuff out, and then 5 years later, if it's working for us, everybody else is going to find out about it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I also wanted to ask, honestly, there's so much that I want to ask you, and I feel like I'm going to have a little time, but I'm just going to shoot things out as much as I can. What do you feel like propelled you, or not propelled you, but what do you feel like you gained the most out of having the podcast that you've had for so long?
Man, it's tough to say one thing. But I would say if I can pick my favorite, I would pick my wife.
Okay, you gotta tell me about this.
I literally met my wife, Victoria Felker, as a guest on the podcast.
That's fucking legendary.
Dude, and I like she's level up for me. All right. Like, I'll be, you know, like I'm not of any illusions, you know, about who I am. And she's brilliant. She's beautiful. And Scott Stevenson says, hey, I was at, you know, this seminar Swiss up in Canada. It was with John Meadows, and Ben Johnson was there. It was like this big to do. I met this woman who's a researcher in female hormones and PEDs and athletics. I'd love to get her on the show. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's do it, dude. So he gives me her Instagram. I was gonna say, well, you're still doing Facebook back then. It's a while ago now. And gives me her Instagram. I message her. We set the date up. And at the time, like we didn't talk at all before that. We just were going to have her on. And Scott and I even opened the show. I've gone back and listened to this episode, by the way. We opened the show and then like 15 minutes in, we talk about some stuff. We talk about training. We talk about some shows. And then I'm like, all right, yeah, we're going to call, our guest, Victoria Felker, expert in women's health and hormones. So literally the first time that I ever spoke to her was on the podcast. Like, right. Yeah. First time we spoke with words, that was it. And
so how did you pull this, asking for a friend? Tell all the boys.
So I didn't pull anything. All right. Cause at the time I was in a relationship, but like,
that's the key.
Down
what
the
is
road.
It called again? You guys know what I'm talking about?
No. What's it called?
It's like I don't know what the fuck is it. So I have this problem. Like I listen to a lot of things, and I just forget all the names of everything.
That's
so
okay.
I even have a list of like the names of the people that I met on iPhone notes, just because that's the only way I'll ever remember.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's like that thing where it's like if you're a dude and you're surrounded by more girls, and it's like the pre something theory or whatever. It's like
Okay.
Like not pre-chosen or that sounds so dumb, dude. It sounds so
But
cringe.
it's like a thing where you're not intentionally trying, kind of. Is that what you're
Yeah,
getting
it's like
at,
the joke
or?
that people made that like, it's always whenever you're in a relationship that you feel like there's a desire for you more.
You're right. So yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it. And then later, fast forward, I wasn't in a relationship, and we did a podcast again. And then we did a podcast again. Like I had her on, and we just talked about some really basic stuff that a lot of people didn't understand. Like we talked about I brought her on a show just to talk about the menstrual cycle. Like, can you tell us what's actually going on in the luteal phase? Like, what is the luteal phase? Like we broke it all down.
I'll never understand that.
Yeah.
It's just going to be like 100 times more complicated to me than actual bro cycles.
Right. And she broke it down in a really simple fashion, and it was cool because the audience all learned from it, and then I hit her back again, and then it was like that third or fourth time. I was like, you know what? She's cute. I can see, yeah, I like her. And I had met her at this point now too, at the Arnold Classic. So I met her at the Arnold Classic. She was there. She was like on a committee where like these like researchers and scientists were going around to check the caffeine content of the pre-workouts at each booth. Like she was there for some organization. And like we hung out a little bit. We went to prejudging together. She came with us, a group of people and stuff. And then after that, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna hit on her next time I talk to her. I'm just gonna see. I'm gonna see. So I got her on the show. We like talked a little bit about what we're gonna do. We had to brainstorm, at this point about like the next podcast. And I get her on the show, and I like flirted with her a little bit, and we just kind of developed a friendship from there.
Like while you were on, like while you guys were filming an episode.
Beyond that, like there was like good energy, good charisma, and then after that, we continued to talk, and it just continued to develop from there. And I'll tell you what, man, like she's one of those people that like you meet somebody and it's like you just click. You just like I've known her forever kind of thing. When I met her, and when I figured this out, I was like, yeah, she's the person I've always been looking for. She's like the one. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, so I'm really glad I didn't meet her any sooner. But let's make this happen. And she's way out of my league. She's super intelligent, and I think that her intelligence is also kind of intimidating to a lot of people. And it was intimidating to me, but I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna roll with this. And if you don't try, you're not gonna find out. So that's how it went. And now fast forward like 7+ years, we had been seeing each other, and we've been married for 4. So
wow, that is crazy, dude.
Moved her here from Canada and everything. That's a whole podcast in itself, man. Talking about immigration. It's tricky. It's not cheap either, but she was worth it.
Fire.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that would be the number one thing, man. If I had to pick like the number one thing that I've gotten from the podcast. And then the next part is just the relationships with people, and I feel like I've learned so much. I wouldn't be where I am today as far as the knowledge I have. Like, dude, like just spending every other week, I spend like two hours with Scott Stevenson listening to him talk. Like my thoughts on training have developed and evolved so much as a result of that. Like the first year of that show we do. So Scott Stevenson and I have a program called Muscle Minds. It started out, the first year was Scott Stevenson, Jordan Peters, and Scott McNally. The 3 of us did that show together. Nobody knew who Jordan was back then. Like he was just some random, really bright dude who was really intense from the UK. And then he blew up, but so I've learned just so much from everybody that I podcast with. Literally everybody I've learned things from, and that's influenced then what I do as a coach, and it's helped me help others. So it's like, it's changed my life,
I feel the exact same way as you do. And that's why I want to ask you about all the things that you learn on this podcast. If you can get a little summary. But I'm before we ask that, I actually, were you like was this in the beginning of your 40s when you met your wife, your current wife? It was like end of your 30s or something?
So she's like 13 years younger than me too. So she's I am 49 now. I think I was like, yeah, early 30s, early 40s when we met.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love asking about, I feel like a lot of people like to say that dating is all weird and shit now. And like, there's so many options and like now the divorce rates are getting higher and et cetera. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I'm glad I don't have to date anymore. I love what we do, man.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah. So it's just kind of fun to ask about it because it always piques my interest. I mean, my personal opinion on it is maybe it'll just potentially take longer now than it used to, but it doesn't mean that your person isn't out there for you. It just takes, I think, a little bit more patience, in my opinion. And
there's a lot of noise, out there nowadays. Like, there's just so much going on. I don't know. Have you ever dated through apps? I know everybody's all on apps nowadays and all of that. I like never really even got into that myself.
Yeah, I did in my 20s, and was a bit successful in my early 20s with it. But
look at you. You got the physique.
You wouldn't believe, bro. The app was literally just all Asians.
Okay,
that was the algorithm for me, even if I wasn't interested at the time. I did in my 20s. Found, I think, me to enjoy the relationships I made that were off the app and just kind of a little bit more, they felt more by chance and felt a little bit more authentic, but I had really great relationships through the app as well. In fact, I met a couple of my best friends at the time through it too. So it's very interesting how it works. I think you can really meet anyone anyway these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in a very contemplative mood right now, so I'm just thinking about a lot of things in the back of my head.
Right on. Well, I'm glad to catch you in that today. It'll make for a unique show. Yeah, this usually is what happens when I have insomnia and I don't sleep for like 3 hours in the night. But it just tends to happen. But it's okay because we took like 6 different nootropics and half a pill of modafinil today. Okay. So we experimented with some. So good luck sleeping tonight, basically, right? Yeah. So I guess that aside, and I do agree with the relationships being the biggest thing through the podcast. I think if there's anything that I've gained, it's, I think, being able to not only like pick people's minds that I look up to, but just realizing that you have so much more in common with these people and being able to talk to them and connect with them is just fucking awesome, dude. But what do you feel like is, if you had to pick the top 3 things that were probably the most substantial things for you that you learned through having your podcast space? And this could be in bodybuilding or out, because I feel like that would be something that's kind of hard to pick, but if it's okay, I kind of just want to challenge you. Yeah. I just find that I am constantly thrown different theories by having this podcast. Yeah. And it's cool because if you, like, for example, look at a Reddit page and you're just, there's something you're trying to solve, like you're having these crazy symptoms and doctors aren't giving you a good idea. So you look it up and then you finally get an idea of what it could be. And you'll see like the top, you have thumbs up and you'll see the number of thumbs up for how many people have agreed with someone's message to you. Right. And I think that's what I'm feeling through having this podcast. And I'll have like one-way lead. I'll have, for example, like you just had an episode come out regarding a discussion on whether or not you guys believe that GH thickens the skin, Yeah. And I'll hear that, for example, like more people are leaning towards GH isn't as substantial as people think, but also isn't the cause for big guts versus people that aren't leaning. And that's different than it was 10 years ago. Absolutely. So I'm curious what you feel like you have learned
whether or not it's something that's concrete or whether or not it's a theory that seems it's the most probable.
Yeah.
Through the 10 years you've had the podcast, the 10 plus years.
I'd say so. That's a big one, right?
Mm.
And there's so many things. I'm going to be honest with you. There are things there's a lot of things I've forgotten I've learned, like things that maybe I don't use regularly. Like you'll learn a lot of novel stuff through podcasting and social media. There's like these interesting little novel bits that come out, and you learn those things, and then eventually, like if you don't actually like if there isn't a need for it, you don't apply it, then like eventually it just gets filed away, and I think I just then throw it out and mentally, and I make room for the next new thing that I wanted to, that I'm learning about. So I think I've probably learned a lot that I've just kind of integrated into my life or tossed aside. But I think you nailed something that's really cool about what you do and then what we do with Think Big is that, so like you have the opportunity to talk to a lot of different people. And I think that's important. With the channel, I'll ask the same question to like 3 different panels of people through the week. So that like our listeners will get to hear that same question getting asked to Ron and Dusty and to Dave Crossland and to the guys on Blood, Sweat and Gear and to Scott Stevenson. They'll hear and I think that here's the thing. We're in this generation now where like you're either right or you're wrong. There's no middle ground anymore, Mm-hmm. So like we believe you, and because you're right, everything about everything. And because we don't agree with this guy, he's wrong, and he doesn't know anything because he's wrong about that means he's wrong about everything else too. We just cast him aside. There's kind of that going on, but I would rather have people step back and, listen, what does Ron Partlow have to say about that? What does Scott, from his perspective as a longtime, bodybuilder in just banging it out to get his pro card for a decade, right? And what does Scott Stevenson think about that? What does Dusty think about that? And then what do I think about that too? Like, what has been my experience? And then I can take all those things and then just kind of make my own decision. I can, instead of relying on like, you tune into me for me to disseminate all these facts. Like, let's just tell you what all of these experience, and you get that with what you do because you're talking to a huge cross section of people. So, you'll hear ideas that you'll find there are some ideas that overlap. Like you'll see there's common threads. Like when it comes to growing calves, I've heard one guy say, like John Meadows had said, go real heavy with your calf training. Keep the sets as low as possible. Like just 3 sets, 4 sets. Go as heavy as you can. Get to that heavy weight as soon as you can, and then come back and do it again as soon as your calves aren't sore. That's how I grew my calves. And then you hear Dave Palumbo say, you got to go as heavy as possible. Use, good deep stretches, good, hard contractions, control the negative. Key is go heavy as possible. And now you're starting to hear like, okay, so I heard 2 people say something that overlaps and they both found success with this. Like, that's how I learn from people. I don't just like say, hey, now tell me how to, this works. And then you tell me, and now I believe that. Right. Like I kind of look at a number, a cross section, and like, what are all the pieces what are the common threads in this? I want to use some creative thinking to that.
Right. I think the reason that is because when we look at our genetic makeup and we think about how drugs react with all of us, there's like a certain percentage that people act with, right? And then there's like I think Justin Harris kind of explains it best, where you have certain outliers, but those outliers are like, say, 10% of the population or 20% of the population, right? Yeah. So I think it's just cool to hear the percentage of people that'll say, go as heavy as you can. I'm sure that's a greater percentage of the population, but then there's the other percentage of the population that's like, do a little bit more reps and actually think about the pump more than you do whenever you're just going heavy, or prioritize, say like 2 to 3 RIR. So that way you can actually extend your volume for as long as you need to in that workout without, destroying yourself rather than just going heavy off the bat. You know what I mean? Like heavy, quote unquote, relative heavy. So,
and who was wrong? neither.
Right, exactly.
You know?
It could be neither, or it's just like you
Yeah.
have to experiment with yourself and find out how it works with yourself. You know, I'm sure like any of the homies over here who have done recreational drugs with their bros and shit, like they'll find like some people just like get anxious and paranoid as shit on weed. Some people
Oh, yeah.
relax the fuck out off of weed. Sometimes it's the same strain that does that for both of them, but it's just the way that their chemistries are or wherever they are in life at that moment. It just reacts differently. I think it's pretty true for any other substance. It's just what percentage, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So you can take that and you can learn from it. I mean, gosh, I'm trying to think of some things like one thing that took me a long time to figure out was the idea of higher frequency, because where I came from in bodybuilding, we were all following like the Ronnie J splits, like the bro split as it's called nowadays. And I started like I maybe split legs up, but not back training twice a week. That was kind of foreign to me. Chest training was kind of foreign to me twice a week, anything like that. So eventually though, I figured it out, and it was after podcasting with Jordan and Scott for a year straight, hearing them talk about the benefits of high frequency, that I was dealing with this shoulder issue. And I found that like I could do two exercises. Couldn't figure out what the shoulder issue was, but I knew I could do two chest presses, two exercises of chest press before my shoulder started bothering me. If I tried to do all four exercises, I wouldn't be able to get through the last two with any kind of power or strength. So, I eventually did figure out the shoulder issue, but that's another conversation. Anyway, so I thought to myself, well, Scott always talks about higher frequency. So what if I were to still do 4 chest exercises, but I do 2 of them on Monday and 2 of them on Thursday? How does that going to work out for me? And so I did that, and I committed to it. And at the time too, I was dieting. I started dieting in like February, and this happens, right? And I'm training this way, and I'm finding the benefit to me initially was, holy crap, every time I do a set of chest, I'm strong as hell, because it's like the first exercise of the day. You know what I mean? Instead of like you go through like a big long workout, that third, fourth, fifth exercise, you don't have the same amount to give as you do on that first exercise. But it's like, now I'm real fresh. Every time I train chest now, I'm doing the same amount of volume before, but every time I do it, I'm feeling really fresh. That's got to be some benefit, right? And I ended up doing this for like the whole year. And I continued dieting. I started experimenting with some stuff with dieting, and I dieted from like February through November. So it was like almost the full year. And after that, I filled back out, and I had some pictures from like the very end of that season. And I was looking at those pictures with somebody and trying to decide, like, what do I need to work on next? What am I going to bring up? And I remember him saying, he was like, well, your chest is one of your stronger body parts. So, that's probably, it's like, what do you mean? Chest has never been like strong for me. And then I looked at the pictures and I was like, yeah, you're right, dude. Like my chest came up in a deficit. Well, for the last year, I've been in a deficit, yet the only thing I did different was change my training. So I was like, wow, okay, higher frequency. I can see how this could be of benefit. And then from there, it really did open my mind, because I'll be honest, man, there was a time I felt like, I know everything there is to know about training. Like, there's nothing. No, you just get in there, you lift weights, you go hard. I was kind of complacent about it, I guess. And I had good experiences with training. I just like I was doing like John Meadows plans and training with like very intense people known for their intensity. So it's like, but that frequency was just a simple missing piece that like it opened my world to something completely new and different. So I'd say that's one thing. Another thing, I can think of one other thing, and that was this revolves around filling out for a show. And I talked about this recently on one of our podcasts, but I just found that my legs would always get really depleted coming into a show. And I did a lot of cardio too. So talking to Skip about that, it was like 2014 or so, 15. It's like 15, I think. And I was like, yeah, man, I feel like I lose a lot of muscle in my legs. And he was like, well, does it come back after you finish the diet? I was like, well, yeah, a month later it's back. And he's like, well, if you lost that muscle, like if you really lost that muscle, It's not just going to come back after the show. It's like, okay. So maybe that muscle's just not able to get full enough, you know? And so it really did, that sparked me into changing the way that I diet people as far as like what our time frame is. Because like back in the day when I learned how to diet, the first time I competed, I think was 2009 or 10. And the person who taught me, great guy, Rick Wetmore, he was a local bodybuilder. And he helped me for free. He was just like a bro in the gym who like was like, oh man, I'll help you prep. So he helps me prep. He learned from Dave Palumbo because Palumbo was like prepping everybody back then. And he had prepped him as well as like his buddies. And the whole concept at the time was like, you would just like tear it into the show. And then like the week before you cut the cardio, you fill out, you eat the carbs and you cut the water and you get on stage. So getting away from that, I just started realizing like, man, get ready 4 weeks out. If you get ready 4 weeks out, you can cut that cardio way early. If you had to do cardio to begin with, you can, if you're already in shape, you get to that point where you need to start feeding the body up. Like I want to get to that point at like at least 6 weeks out, if not earlier, where now your body requires more food to stay full. Like I want that, you know, and then from there too, like you're going to come in rested. You're going to be able to come in full. And because here's the thing, man, I feel like the analogy I've always had in my head is that muscle is a lot like sponge, and that here in Michigan, we can wash our cars. Like when I was a kid, we wash our car in the driveway. You could only do that through the fall, you know, the summer, the spring, but wintertime, you'd have to stop doing that because it's like freaking 0 degrees here. So you get that bucket out in the spring and the sponge was all shrunk down, you know, it's like, it looks like a smaller sponge, and you go to soak that sponge in the water that it's been like completely dried out. It's resistant. It just pops right back up to the top of the water, and it takes a little. And so that's just always been the picture I've had in my head is like, you got to let that sponge marinate for a little while. You can't just hit it with carbs that last week and expect them to take. Like, let's get you full, you know? So if I can get somebody in shape, like ideally 4 weeks out, right? Maybe 5. And then we get that food loaded up, maybe fill you and even get you to spill and hold you there for a minute. And then we can tighten you back in. Then we don't have to do anything crazy. You know, we just bring you in rested and feeling full in the stomach. You're not hungry, you know, in the muscle, you're full and you feel like $1 million. I'd rather have that, man, versus going in there just like all like not drinking, not eating, you know, seeing stars because you've taken so many diuretics, which I have seen. Like it's not fun.
Right. Yeah. I feel like anything that's easier in the body should be what'll get you a better result. But it's hard because it's bodybuilding, right? So honestly, we could list out a long list of all the peptides that have helped us. You guys have heard these peptides and these research chems in the podcast maybe 1 million times. Peptides I've used from APR such as BPC 157 and TP 500 for soft tissue healing, retatrutide and other GLPs, mitochondrial support such as SS31, MOTC, 5-amino-1Q, methylene blue, SLU. There's a bunch of others. Obviously, the list goes on and on. One of my favorite things, though, that I've been utilizing, such as during my last prep, that has allowed my blood work to come basically pristine, aside from slightly elevated liver enzymes at about 60 and 130 1 week after the show. And this is after a leg day because my dumb ass doesn't want to skip a training day. These are probably the things that I think are the most important. So this includes like your injectable glutathione, injectable or even just normal NAC, liposoluble glutathione, GI aids such as oral BPC, oral TB, KPV. A lot of these things have probably been very substantial in reducing oxidative stress and keeping all my blood markers down, and thus keeping me as basically healthy as fucking possible that you can be while you're bodybuilding. So I couldn't be more thankful to Mike for literally showing me the ropes and also providing me with all of these things. Even the compounded supplements that he creates for blood pressure and reducing oxidative stress on all your organs, including your cardiovascular system, your liver, and your kidneys. All of these that he creates have been very substantial, honestly. So You can find any of these at his site, aprhealthsolutions.com. And he has offered me a code Nile for you guys to use, which will offer you a 15% discount off of all of that as well. If you guys end up using those and you like him, please let me know. Shoot in a comment, just give me a DM or something. And if you ever have any problems or any questions, I'll be here too. This is a community for me, even though I don't have a fucking Discord because I'm lazy as shit, but I fucking should make one. So love you guys and keep training hard. Do you feel like the time frame for prep, aside from just getting that person there, say 3-4 weeks earlier, do you think that time frame has changed also in terms of like the rate of weight loss?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Like, so when I started, it was 12 weeks going into for a prep, full prep, 12 weeks. And dude, people used to go hard. Like we're talking like, if you're in the off season, you're bulking. If you're not stuffed and force feeding, you're not eating enough, man.
Yeah.
And then you're eating pancakes on top of that. You know, like we're watching Jay Cutler and trying to do what he could do, but I didn't have Jay Cutler's genetics. So you put all that weight on me. There's guys out there, man, you know, like guys like Ron Partlow and Dusty Hanshaw, where maybe they're 250 and you push them up to 300 and you rip them back down to 280 and they look great. And then there's like the average genetic people like me that like, it's going to be a nasty, ugly process. And you're going to be lucky to be the same weight you started at if you push up that heavy. So yeah, I was sorry. I kind of lost track of my thought there. I couldn't remember where I was going with that, but yeah.
How long is the prep now? If it used to be 12 weeks. Cause no, you're totally right. People used to go so fucking hard.
Yeah. So like, now I think let me ask you, what do you, if you were to try to put a number on it, what would you say is average today?
I feel like people are getting a better handle on just doing about like a pound per week. Like it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Obviously this differs per person though. Cause you know, some people prep is just easier for some people than others, but I think, shooting for the place where you feel like you can do a pound per week and you do not feel like it's really increasing your allostatic load that much. You know, it's not like, oh my God, I have literally like all my energy in the day goes towards thinking about cutting this weight and preserving the muscle.
If you could get to that kind of position, that's incredible, man. And people aren't getting as out of shape as they had been back then either. So time frame wise, I would say if I were to try to put like an average number on it, I would say preps are probably longer now.
Yeah.
I'd say 22 weeks, somewhere in there is where I'd say is pretty average. But here's the thing too, man. I mean, I have no problem dieting for somebody for 22 weeks, but here's the thing. It's not just a straight cut, you know, if you can, I mean, if I'm dieting somebody for 22 weeks and we can get you in shape and feeding you up at 6-8 weeks out, like you're really just coasting. Like it's not going to be a problem. I'm completely down with that. And I think that that's where we're going to be able to get the absolute best look. Now, if somebody came in, they're already super lean to begin with, I mean, that's going to be another story, you know. Obviously there's going to be people that are shorter or people who can diet real fast.
Right. Yep.
I work with one guy that like, I can't get him fat in the off season hardly. Even if I tried, like he does not need anywhere near that. But I'd say on average, 22 weeks, I'd be happy with that. And that you're going to come out the other side, unless you're already a mass monster, you're going to come out the other side of that prep bigger too. Like I absolutely guarantee you, there is no question in my mind that people are definitely growing in a deficit. We have research now to show that people, like natural people in a 500 calorie deficit, are growing muscle. If they can do that, and we're cramming all this protein in and we're on trend, there's no question in my mind you can grow muscle in a deficit.
Wait, do you remember what are these kind of category of people that are getting muscle naturally at that? Like, are these people that are like newly trained or?
I can't remember what it was. We did a show on it and there was nothing, it wasn't anything, it wasn't anything like suspicious where, from what I recall, it wasn't anything like these people never trained in their lives and now they're exercising. It wasn't anything like that, but I've seen it in my own life. Like I have progress pictures of people where like the left picture is the first day of prep. And like one guy I always go back to is a guy I'd worked with a number of years, and great example of just like your average guy. He's a lighter person, lighter weight, men's physique competitor. He didn't pay a ton of attention in his off season. Like he wasn't super focused. He'd kind of do what he wanted, make sure he got protein in, and he'd train hard and have fun. And then he'd hire me. We'd do, a prep, and he'd usually have to diet hard too. Like he'd have to go down to keto, sometimes like protein only, and he'd have to do cardio too, like a good amount of it, but he'd get in awesome shape. And we have pictures of him like first day of the diet, and then like 6 weeks after, 8 weeks after. And it's not like he did some sort of special reverse. He just went back to eating the way he did before. It's like, damn, every time, boom, he's bigger than he was. I do think that, there's factors to it. Yeah. Like, is somebody as religious in their off season with their nutrition and their training and their focus and their supplementation as they are in prep? That guy's probably not going to grow as much as the guy who's like, 3/4 the way there in his off season and then 100% on prep. Or like I was saying, is this guy already like big dude? Is he already 240? Is he already a super heavy? Like chances of him growing, he already has a lot of muscle. How much more is he really going to gain in a deficit? I don't know, but I figure, to me, that gives me hope, seeing the research. I could find that for you if you wanted to. It was interesting to see that, I just tell myself, if natural people can grow muscle and prep, then damn it, we can too, if we're running a bunch of gear and eating a ton of protein.
Damn. Wow. That is wild. Yeah. I would love to see that at some point for sure. Cause it's like, honestly, the bodybuilder in me, it feels hard to believe that a natural can build muscle during prep, to be honest.
That Vache, by the way, he was natural too. Like he didn't use anything. He was just natural men's physique competitor. The guy I was talking about, Vache, the guy I was talking about, completely natural too. Yeah. That's
awesome. And you don't think that's more regarding like their rebound post prep?
No, because like I said, because I thought about it, but like I said, he didn't do anything special. And here's the thing, man. I'm not a huge believer. Like I understand in the last few years, the idea of the rebound has become a lot more on the forefront of our minds. I am personally of the belief that a lot of that rebound is just filling the sponge back out.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I'm coming from with it. I think that a lot of what you're seeing, post show is that you were depleted, maybe you weren't 100% full, give it 3-4 weeks and you let that muscle marinate longer and now you're seeing it. And that's one of the reasons why, I try to diet people longer so that I can fill them out sooner and have them go into the show having eaten, comfortably for quite a while.
Yeah. I honestly feel like my belief lands in the middle, if that makes sense. Kind of includes both. So it's like you're filling out with a sponge, but also the act of progressively titrating up anything that stimulates hypertrophy. So that's like your training, your nutrition, your gear, any of these things all contribute to the rate that you can gain muscle. But obviously it's not a linear graph, right? Slowly plateaus, like the more you push until like a certain aspect. Like that's why you can't like be pushing over like 1.5 grams of test or something. Like you just, but yeah, I believe that like the insulin sensitivity that you gain post show isn't the craziest thing. People have to talk about it a lot. Like it's something insane. I really don't think it is, but it does help and adds a factor to how fast you grow post show. So a bunch 100%. Of it is absorbing that as a sponge, but since you're also absorbing so much like a sponge, that also contributes to speeding up the growth in that time frame versus any other time frame you'd have, if that makes sense.
No, and I'm with you 100%. I think you can believe in both. You know what I mean? I don't think it has to be one of those, like, it doesn't have to be like, well, if I believe this, I can't believe that too. Yeah. I definitely think there is benefit to that post-show window. It can also be really bad too if you let it, because you can put fat on just as easily as you can put muscle on. In fact, it's the worst, Yeah,
it fucking sucks, bro. I've been there so many times.
I've got a picture. I think I can share this with you. Let me see. This is Vache. This is the picture I was talking about. So he's not a big guy, but this is like 6-8 weeks after going back to eating like crap. and that on the right, and that on the
Damn,
left
that is
was
insane.
like day one of the diet. You know, men's, like I said, natural men's physique competitor, just a state level guy. You know, just loved doing the stuff. And
Tell me he's flexing his arms in the right and not on the left, because that's crazy.
he might be. He looks very proud. He looks very proud in the right.
He looks very
he?
proud. Yeah, for sure, for sure. It looks like he's actually got some calories in.
But I'm like, dang, you know, if Vach can do it, you know, naturally, then I definitely can do that too.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think about? So Dave and I were having this discussion, and we were discussing androgen receptors, and he believes potentially that the androgen receptor actually upregulates also when you completely come off of everything. So that by the time you come back on, you're even more responsive.
I don't know. I you know, from what I mean, so what people tell me, like, I literally, this isn't something I really think about a lot as far as like what the actual science is of it. But I do see that when somebody takes you only get so much out of a cycle. It seems like, you know, like the guy who's making progress at 5-6 weeks in, he's doing incredible. You know, what are the reasons that, you know, he's not doing as good at like 22, 25 weeks in? You know, I think there's probably a lot of factors there. I mean, I think one of them is probably like that you're maybe not as motivated as you were when you're like, I just got the gear in, man. I'm freaking ready to tear this up.
Yeah.
By that point, you're like, oh, I've been pushing hard for 22 weeks. I'm really tired of eating. You know, I think that there's maybe some emotional stuff or, you know, mental stuff that goes into that. Like morale, I guess would probably be the right word for that.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the androgen receptor, it dies off pretty rapidly. Like you're not the androgen receptors that you're using today aren't the same androgen receptors that were there last week. So I don't know, man. If anything, from you know, we had a researcher on who was saying that you increase the density of androgen receptors as you have more androgens. They upregulate, which would make sense because the same thing happens with other medications and drugs. You know, if you have that bigger supply, then your body's going to try to accommodate that. So, and that never completely goes away either. That because the research was that if you know, are you ever truly natural again, you know, or do you have, you know, more propensity to grow muscle after you've used gear? You know, do you like genetically alter yourself? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, but I can tell you that the guy at 24 weeks into that cycle isn't making the same quality of gains that he was making at, you know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks into the cycle. And it's not something I've been able to answer personally.
It's a pretty cool idea to think that you just take a big juicy cycle and you just become a superior human being, you know, permanently.
Yeah. I mean, I wish it worked that way. I wish like it just stayed, you know, that'd be cool. It'd be fun, man.
I mean, Dave did say some cool things that made it sound promising, such as like, I'm trying to remember exactly. Increasing your nuclei. Once you've done that, it's like permanently increased. So by the time you come back on, that's his explanation for muscle memory, why it's so easy to gain the muscle that you had before all back. If it's actual, you know, like say like you're talking about somebody who's retired for a long time and then they come back on gear. Normally it takes them a shorter period of time. It still takes a while, I think, you know, but like you see someone like I think Ian, for example, and Ian's, I feel like Ian's blowing up right now.
It's crazy, dude. Like it puts a smile on my face when I've seen his pictures. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe, because I remember when he was like, you know, almost not quite normal size, but, you know, closer to normal size than what he is again now.
Nothing like shirtless buff dudes on the Explore page.
Scott Stevenson had a really cool analogy about, you know, about the nuclei. And he was saying that, you know, and this was in the context of a term that Dante Trudel uses, solidifying the gains, that post cycle, after you've grown some muscle, that you want to take time. You don't want to just like immediately, if you come off, like you don't want to necessarily cut the calories too. You want to try to support that muscle for a period of time. Like when I say come off, I mean whether you come off or go to TRT or whatever. But after you remove the androgens, you don't want to remove the androgens and the food and the gear, and the training. You like keep 2 of the 3 in there. But what Scott was saying is like, he explained it like this. He was saying that when we build muscle, it's kind of like a city expanding. So when a city expands out and they're going to create like a new subdivision out in a cornfield, they don't automatically put a post office in because they plan to build a subdivision there in 2 years. Like, they wait for you to put those subdivisions in, and they continue using the post office they already have. And that post office has to do more work until they can't handle it anymore. And eventually they'll put another post office out there in the suburbs too. And that's basically like creating the infrastructure to then continue building and supporting that city, and that's what the nuclei is like. Your body's going to rely on what you have initially, but then over time you produce more nuclei, you convert, you turn on more cells, and you basically create a better infrastructure. And I would imagine that infrastructure doesn't then go away,
Right.
just if you stop training. I would imagine that infrastructure is there for the most part, at least.
I feel like that's also a good argument for people advocating for GH use because of hyperplasia.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's all theories, bro.
Yeah.
Might as well just use everything. Do you think, you had me thinking, both Patrick Tor and Phil Viz, I think, also seem to believe something similar to this, where Phil focuses on strength at the beginning of like I want to say a mesocycle. For example, in the beginning of someone's just cycle, jumping back on. And then later on in that process, they believe that the muscle, like how much you gain muscle, slows down. And then at that point, it's just how long you can hold that muscle for is solidifying how much you have, so you don't lose as much during prep.
I mean, I think that sounds logical to me.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I think it all comes down to like how much time that you're holding something. I think your body just takes time to adapt, and it just gets used to things. So it's always like the longer that you can hold some size, the more natural it is for your body to go back there.
And the better your body sets up the infrastructure to support it, and once you have that infrastructure set up, it's a lot easier. I've known guys that like at my age now, I'm at a point where like I know a lot more bodybuilders that are on the end of retiring than coming up. And I'm seeing guys that are, like, gosh, Dusty, like, when I retire, he used to say like, when I retire, I'm just going to come off and, I'm going to just cut back down to like 220. Excuse me. He was like 300 last time I talked to him. He can't shrink down. He can't lose the muscle. He said like if he actively tries, he just gets leaner, but then he'll have like a week where he goes and just like eats more. He's not trying to eat more. He's eating like 4 times a day, but it's like the muscle he's built is the muscle he has now. I mean, he worked freaking hard for it too. And maybe that's part of it. Like, how did you build that muscle? Were you like an all, like, quote, all drugs guy? Like, if you really, because Dusty depended on heavy ass DC training to build his muscle. If you're building your muscle through that slag iron, I imagine that guy is going to probably hold it better than the guy who's just like pushing the doses and doesn't have that training system built.
Yeah. I forgot I actually wanted to ask you this while you were talking about training frequency, but where do you feel like training intensifiers fall for yourself?
Oh, man. So, I started doing a podcast with Kuba Chelin this past year or so, and he's gotten me thinking a lot more about training. So I know Kuba learned a lot from JP, but then he's learned to kind of take that and take what works for him. And he's learned from other people too, but he got me thinking, because I'd always been a huge fan of intensifiers like the rest pause, especially. I think rest pause can be awesome.
Yeah.
But now I want to be careful with where we use them. Like, I want to be, because here's my thought, man. Every time that we go to hard failure, we are taxing our central nervous system, and that's going to eat into our recovery. So I want to be calculated with it. I don't want to do it just to do it. But I definitely think there's a time and a place. Like, where would be the time and place to pull it out? would be, say, in that phase where you are coming off. You come off gear. Maybe we don't hit failure quite as frequently as we did while you were on, and your total recoverability was higher. You know, I look at like, if this bottle were my total recovery and while I'm on cycle, it's completely full. And each time I go to failure and push hard, I'm using a little bit of this water. You know, I've got that to work with. But when I come off cycle, I might only have like this much to begin with, you know? So I want to be strategic with it, and maybe even cut back in other areas too. Like, do I need as many sets in my isolation work, or do I need, you know, if I were to reduce those, would that allow me to stay stronger in my heavy meat and potatoes lifts? You know, because ultimately that's what I want. And then, you know, going into the point where your recoverability is completely topped off and you're on point with everything, nutrition is up, you do start a cycle, you know, like that's the point, I think, where then and you're already strong. You've been building that strength into the cycle. Like the way I see this, like I don't know anything about racing, but I imagine that like we hit the nitro button when we're already moving. Like we don't hit the nitrous button at like first gear. It just doesn't make sense. I've only seen it in video games, but it doesn't last long. So like, let's get the car up to speed and then hit it. And that's what I think, like, you know, we get all those pieces lined up, and that's where it would make the most sense to like, now we're in a position where you can recover from this. Let's take it. So yeah, I'm a fan, but I want to think more critically than I used to about where I put an intensifier.
Okay. What about within the workout? Where would you place the intensifier if you are doing intensifiers?
It depends on the individual and what they're doing. But, for instance, like if it was a chest exercise, if we're training chest, and let's say this guy has, you know, two chest movements, we'll say, and he's doing 2 sets for each movement, I'd probably want to get it in there in that first exercise. We might do a top set with a rest pause followed by a straight back off set, for instance. Nothing fancy, nothing unique, I don't think. But while we're at our absolute strongest, I mean, that would be my take on it. And then I think there's other cool tools like Scott Stevenson muscle rounds, that maybe at another point of the workout, you want to limit how much you go to failure. So with his idea of it's a type of cluster set, the muscle round, he has a great program, Fortitude Training, and it's all about balancing this, is that it allows you to get in a decent amount of volume, but you only hit failure once. So it's a cluster set of six sets of 4 reps with a 10-second break between each of those sets. But the key is that you use a weight that allows you to only go to failure once. So ideally, you figure out how much weight you need. It's like very calculated exercise. It's advanced, you know, but you figure out how to ideally go to failure right at the end. And if you don't, then you reduce the weight and finish the set. But basically the point is that, you know, you're now, it's almost an unintensifier. You're now getting more volume in, because I think that one of the keys I'm seeing that gets missed with training is volume. I think that, you know what, that like we can only get so much out of intensity, and there are a lot of really intense, strong dudes out there, but like you can't get out of that. Like if you're not Jordan Peters, okay, like if you don't have quite that, if you're missing that by just a little bit, we might be able to, what we can't get from intensity, we can to a degree make up for with volume. And so having an amount of volume in there, I think, can be important, but it's the balance, you know, how intense are you, I think determines then how much, you know, volume you would need to match that. Yeah,
I agree with all of those things. And that's kind of why I personally I believe that bodybuilding is more of an art than most people will distinguish it as. Just
preach it, brother. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. There's so much listening to your body. Yeah. You know, there's so much. And I think that's understated. It's kind of why communication between a coach and the client is so, so important, especially a coach that'll actually care enough to ask you about how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Which isn't always, but it's one of the things that I do like about the RP app, even though, I think no matter what, like an app isn't always going to be perfect. But I think for people that maybe aren't as sure about what to look for, at least it's asking you like, how are your joints feel and how does your recovery feel? And do you feel recovered enough by the next day, both physically and mentally? Do you feel a little bit fatigued? I think these are all things that you have to listen to, because we're all just shooting darts in the dark, thinking like, okay, maybe this is the right volume to hit, and maybe this is the right amount of intensity, and maybe this is the right amount of failure in that workout to hit. Maybe I should only hit failure at the end. But then, like I experienced, for example, recently, I didn't think I was going to hit this point this soon, but I ended up feeling so fucking fatigued last week. And I started wanting to blame, like maybe I just bumped up my test too high than I should have it at, which is at 500. So it's really not that crazy, I guess. But it's like I started blaming other things, and then I realized, honestly, bro, I think I've just been traveling a lot and training really hard a lot. And I think I just need to slow it down and take a damn deload. And I feel better already, and I'm sure it's going to continuously progress. But I'm also having Mike send me a bunch of peptides, and I think that's going to help too.
Okay.
Like
that'll only just throw some
P21
peptides
and
on it.
Humanin, and throw some peptides.
Just throw peptides
SS31.
on it, you'll be fine.
But
I think that reps in reserve has been such a huge development in bodybuilding. It was like everybody just went to hard failure. That was all we ever knew. I think there's like the old school guys that had been against it. It's for good reason. I think the thought is like, you have to know how to actually like what hard failure is in order to understand what 3 reps in reserve is. But once you've got that figured out, for the people who are, I would call it an advanced technique, because I don't think that you really figure out what true failure is for several years. Like because intensity and failure is something I think we continue to redefine, like how hard we can push. And so like, even dude, my limits in my mid 40s, I continued to redefine it, like intensity I never knew I had. But after knowing that, like, yeah, man, there's such a benefit to knowing how to also not do that, knowing how to pull back and get just enough. I probably would have grown better if I had understood that sooner. And that's like all I do, dude. Like I don't now, like my training is completely different because I'm training just because I love training and I want to stay in shape and I want to be fit and healthy. And my goal is to also want to look good too. But my training is none of it's to failure, man. Like, I mean, light failure. It's very, very light failure, but I love it though. And it's like, it's what my body can handle at this stage. And it's working great for me. I couldn't have embraced this like 8 years ago.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel the same way too. And like, I don't believe that like RIR is everything that you should be going to failure. I'm still somewhere in the middle where I do believe you should be going to failure at the end of your workout at the very least. But you should also be prioritizing the fact that it's not about, I think when you're a younger person, especially, and you have a lot of like angst and motivation in you, it's easy to just kind of just fucking go hard, like balls to the wall from the beginning. And and then you just kind of realize like, you're dropping your training weight in places that you probably don't need to be doing so, it's about like the long game in bodybuilding, and that includes your workouts. It's about how productive are you being throughout the entire workout, not just in the first half of the workout, which is why sometimes it's like going to failure in the very first exercise. It's probably going to bite you in some exercises following that. But
I think it depends on your volume too. If you say if the volume's really low, then I'm okay with it. And that's what I try to do, is keep that, like when we talked about going to hard failure early in the workout, I that would be my hard failure. And then from there, the rest of it would be like a back off from that. So, but I could see it the other way around too. And like, dude, legs, if you ask me to get into the gym, like, and I guess it's different too, because I do that on chest. But if you were to ask me to get into the gym and train legs and go to
failure on hack squats,
balls out, hack squats first exercise, we're going to a hard failure. Oh, dude, I'm done. After that, I'm done. That's it. There's no more.
Yeah. I've been training for over 15 years now, and I was too lazy to track anything training wise for about the first 10 years, because science-based training is for pussies. But I kept hitting plateaus from burnout, fatigue, joint issues, and injuries, and other factors that at the time I didn't really fully understand, realizing not everyone is built to handle the intense and same workload and injury resilience as Tom Platz and Ronnie Coleman, sad face. I wanted to speed run that shit, but the reality is dudes that have always known their body best are the ones that have been lifting for at least a decade. Shit takes a long ass time to figure out. I started tracking all my training on the Notes app on iPhone because I don't know what paper is. Until recently, I started using the RP Hypertrophy app. The RP Hypertrophy app spoon feeds you step-by-step workouts tailored towards whatever your focus is, or you can customize the workout yourself. Well-educated coaches have always cost $250 to $500 or more a month. I'm paying $500. That's like 10 bottles of testosterone. But if you're not competing or you don't have the money to spend, the app will adjust your program for you every week to maximize your long-term growth. It'll base this on your pump, how fatigued you feel, how your joints feel, and more. It takes in everything into account, none of which I took into account in college because the only accounting I did was counting how many dumpies were in my class. Look, there's a titty. If you don't believe in science-based training, you don't got to do no 3 RIR shit. You can just hoist heavy steel and track it, because we all know that the people who say that they remember their weights, sets, and reps every week are full of shit. IMO, there's a sort of middle ground where you track your progress and make sure all the variables are right in your food, sleep, gear, progressive overload, and then you go to the gym and slam those heavy PRs until your blood pressure is higher than Miley Cyrus. If you're still unsure, they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you still don't like it and it gives you a bad tan, you can get your money back. That way, when you compete at your next show, your tan doesn't cost you the first place that you so well deserve. So go to the link in the description below, or you go to rpstrength.com/Nile and use code Nile at checkout. That's rpstrength.com/Nile, code Nile at checkout.
Apparently, Chris Williamson trains his bladder to be able to hold it throughout the entire podcast. And as a bodybuilder, I don't think that's something I'll ever be able to do.
Yeah, I was like, man, I know that Niall goes long on this show. It's like, I better make sure I go before. I was like, is my bladder empty? Yeah, I'm good. I'll just watch the fluids while we record.
If you were to go back in time, or actually, no, let me change this. Sorry, I've been brain farting all day today, by the way. Also, all these questions, I just felt like I wanted to, I don't really create much of a script for any of my podcast episodes.
That's cool.
But for some reason, this one with you particularly, the whole thing has kind of just been on the fly. Just kind of like what I feel like I'm curious asking you as one of your listeners.
Yeah.
But,
well, I hope people enjoy it. I hope they
hopefully.
do it. And I'm grateful to be here too, man. So I'm happy to do it however you want to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, bro. So knowing that everybody reacts differently. Obviously, you're going to have to tailor, say, like a prep or like a plan to a client and their own body. If you were to hypothetically create a plan for a client, say like a new pro, for example, that needs to gain 15 pounds of weight so they can be up to their cap, like for classic, for example. We've talked about training and what you believe with training and frequency, so that helps a lot. We've discussed nutrition and prep, and I think you're on the same page as me when it comes to slowing things down, which helps them manage their aesthetic load. When it comes to growing and gear and potentially nutrition that comes along with that, how would you try to structure that? And what are your beliefs about GH and insulin use?
The first thing I'd do is I'd want to find out what their history was. If you're a new pro, there's a good chance that you already have run a fair number of cycles. You've had experience. So the first thing I would want to do is dig into that, find out what do you like, what do you not like, what's worked well for you, what was an absolute, nightmare to deal with, and I think that the gear side of things, it's not super complicated. It's a matter of experimenting with enough things to figure out what works well for you and then leaning into those things. So I'd say that it would be very individual based off of, what they do well with. A decade ago, if you were to tell me that guys were growing incredibly with like just test and primo, I would have been like, what? You're crazy, but now I'm seeing it. Like there are guys that do really good, like super heavies that are, pro now, big pros, that like that's mainly what they use to grow. So I want to try to be open-minded to use the compounds that work well for you. And
that's
then
mainly
also
what I've used.
Okay.
But I haven't experimented enough though. So that's the thing. I feel like I need to throw in some other shit in there to find out.
You might be good, man. Like, it's funny because I feel like we start looking at the gear and then we start looking at like, well, this compound is said to do this and give us this, and this result. This compound said to do this. And then we start like, it's like a laundry list of things we're shopping for. Like, well, I want hard conditioning. I want to take that. No, it's like figure out the things that like you don't get side effects from and lean into those. And you don't have to try the things that don't work. If you've already found the ones that do, man, more power to you. Like I'd say just keep running with that, Like if you were to come to me, that's what I would tell you. I'd be like, but maybe we'd be like, okay, so if you've done test and primo, well, what are some other compounds that may be beneficial? Like let's use you as an example. What are some other compounds then that may be beneficial? Like, have you had experience with Masteron, which is going to be more similar to primo than different, and then, what about compounds outside of that? Like, I think things that we maybe aren't going to really like push the envelope with. I'm a big fan of equipoise. I always have been. And I feel like equipoise is really getting a lot of play this year because it seems that, every master and primo is a lot harder to get. So it's like a lot of people are using a lot more equipoise nowadays, it seems. But yeah, I've always been a fan of that. And I found people tolerate it fairly well with low side effects. And that's what I want. Like, I want you to feel good. When I first started gear, my thought was like, you had to tolerate whatever the side effects were because that was just part of it. And you kind of pushed through that stuff because you wanted to get where you wanted to get. And that's not how I feel at all today. Like now I feel like let's use the things that agree with you, the things that make you feel better. Like these things are supposed to enhance your life, enhance your performance. I want you to I don't want you taking something that you feel like garbage on.
I think bodybuilding is more about, I think success in bodybuilding is more about how much harm reduction you can do. And I think people are realizing that more now. That was a conversation I also had and agreed with Stefan Kienzel on, is when it comes to compound choices, it's literally just like, what are you finding that you experience the least side effects with? Like if you have hematocrit issues, then you don't have to use EQ. Or if you have, like libido issues or something, then you don't have to use nandrolone.
Yeah. I have a kind of this, I'll tell you, I'm kind of working on this idea about EQ. We've always, understood that equipoise is going to raise hematocrit a lot more than other compounds. Like it's just common understanding within bodybuilding. But then as I'm looking into it, there's no real research to say that. So we're relying on each other, and I ran a 25-week cycle. I ran this long cycle and my hematocrit got high and I was using EQ. Well, was it the EQ or was it the fact that, yes, so EQ has been shown to be erythropoietic, I think you say, is the way you say the word, raise your hematocrit and your hemoglobin, red blood cells, but like, so is every other steroid. They've all been proven to do that, in animals, and in humans, we've seen it too. It's just that they were looking at specifically that when they were doing animal research, because they wanted to increase endurance and they wanted to, so that was something they were looking for. So they were like, yeah, it does do that. Okay. Equipoise does raise hematocrit. Check. But they never did a study where they were like, compared to testosterone, it raises it by this much more. It just does. Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't have a higher propensity to raise hematocrit, but I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm starting to question some of that stuff. Like and I don't want to call it like dogma, because but it is kind of dogma. It's what we've just come to understand, these things that, in my wife's research, there's this term black boxed that they use. So like when you look at like progesterone and estrogens are black boxed as being female birth control. That's what you look at them, these drugs, and you see like, well, what are these used for? This is what these things are used for at a certain time, at least. We don't look for it. We don't look at it beyond that. We just like accept this as just a given. I don't know, man. I feel like equipoise, does it? I don't know. My hematocrit's been high as hell on equipoise, but was it specifically the EQ? I don't know. So I want to talk to more people about that. That's one thing I'd really love to do. In fact, I'd love to ask your listeners, like, and that's the thing is like, none of us can be like, yes, I did a double blind study with 30 people, you know what I mean? 30 people that were, you know, all in EQ and 30 people that weren't, like, yeah, you know.
But I feel like this is one of those places. I mean, but don't you feel like this is one of those places that in an applicable setting, by looking at all of the anecdotes across the board of people who have been doing bodybuilding and been using EQ, I think there's a higher percentage of people that tend to see a higher raise in that per unit of time than some of these other compounds that they're used to. At least for me, I feel like that's kind of just a more probable symptom that I see when it comes to EQ. Not saying that it's always true, but
yeah,
across the board, I feel like that's why that's something that when it comes to anecdotes, that's something that you would listen to. Kind of like the same reason, like I don't feel libido issues from nandrolone, but not to say that it hasn't happened in the past. There is still a wide range of people that does occur with.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and here's just like, yeah, I forget what I was going to say about that, but it's just something that I've been considering. Just it was this, that, you know, what are the other factors that, you know, if you take like transdermal testosterone, it's going to raise your hematocrit less than an injectable, esterified testosterone. If you take a short acting like Prop, it's going to raise it less than a long acting. So, you know, equipoise is usually it's a long acting compound. Is that part of the factor? Is that part of the reason? You know, if there was like, you know, a master on propionate, would it be more so erythropoietic than other compounds? I don't know. You know?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Is it, what's special about that particular compound? I guess that's kind of what I've been just wondering. And it doesn't change anything. It doesn't mean that your hematocrit's not going to be high if you take it. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't ever want to try to say
out of curiosity,
like,
right?
Fine. Yeah. Yeah.
That was the same thing that, it's a similar discussion that Vigor Steve and I were having over trenbolone kidneys is, like according to research, at least it doesn't seem that it's directly kidney toxic like some of these, like the other compounds we were discussing, but indirectly, based off of how it acts, we were reasoning out why you do still see an effect on your kidneys.
Okay.
So like when in an applicable setting, if you're taking Tren for, I don't know, like a significant amount of time or one that's actually substantial and affecting your blood work, normally you would see some kind of effect on your kidneys. But then, you know, it's like the same, like, why does that happen though, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyways, interesting stuff. What about GH and insulin? Where does that fall for you?
Yeah, I don't think that GH is like magical by any means. Just from what I've seen with it, I've seen that I think there are some people that do respond to it better. I think that maybe some people are maybe more genetically gonna have a stronger effect from it than others. I don't know if it's going to be like creating major long-term mass gains. It'll blow you up, man. I work with this guy who he's gosh, we've gotten him up to like over 300 pounds and, you know, with GH, and like he can remove it, but he just like, it looks like muscle. It's like it blows him up in such a way. It looks so cool on him. But I know that when we take it out, that it goes away. You know, it's the way he compartmentalizes fluid. It's crazy. He has this, and I want to figure out how to use that in a contest scenario, because I know that we can really take advantage of it, to be able to get him that and dry. But then other people, I just don't see as great of a response. I personally, I think that, so a lot of people that I work with at this point, that like a lot of people, most of the people I work with, I'd say 75, 85, 80% of the people I work with are non-competitors. And so in that scenario, I'll tell people like 3-4 units at the most is going to be like really awesome for you. And if I'm working with a competitor who wants to experiment with more, like I'm happy to push it up and see, but you know, it's like, let's find out. And I haven't seen it create like long-term gains that are just beyond a shadow of a doubt true new muscle that was because of the GH. Okay. Insulin, on the other hand, I think can be a really great tool. And I think that I'm a fan of short acting insulin personally, and I would rather microdose that and have, maybe it's just me. I like to have control. So I want to kind of put that in where I want it, when I want it. I can totally see the argument for long acting insulin, especially if somebody is. So that's the other side of it too. Like I've seen people push their GH way up and then have a negative impact on their blood sugar. And now they have to doctor that with long acting insulin. And I just feel like, was that beneficial? I don't know. Whereas with short acting insulin, we can, like I said, start out with it around training, build that out to additional meals, especially as the carbs go up. I think it could be a great addition to, especially for somebody who's eating a lot of carbs, to drive more nutrients in. I'm a big fan of pre-workout insulin personally. So.
Okay. Gotcha.
I mean, nothing novel, dude. Like, honestly, man, I think it's, everything I'm talking about is real simple. There's no, like nothing that's like magic or unique or in angle. Like, you should come work with Scott because he's doing this really tricky thing with insulin. Nothing like that.
Mm-hmm. I like it pre and post as well, especially for the ones that muscle groups I'm trying to bring up. I think Dave kind of disagreed with me slightly on his belief and use of insulin. Yeah, mine is a little bit more along the lines of like just your mainstream and your common bodybuilding coaches. Most of the coaches I think will utilize insulin in the way that I would, but Dave is a little bit more from an interesting perspective. He likes long acting throughout the entire day.
Okay,
and he believes that insulin only uptakes glucose from the bloodstream. That's it. Okay. Whereas like. What do you believe that insulin uptakes from the bloodstream?
I would think any nutrients that could be pushed into the muscle would then better get delivered to the muscle.
I would think so too.
Amino acids, including fats too.
Including fats, yeah.
And you're talking about Dave Palumbo, right?
Yeah, Dave Palumbo. Yeah. And he said he'd be happy to.
Yeah. He'd be happy to what?
He's a super smart guy, and I love the stuff he talks about too as well. But he said he'd be happy to debate anybody, like on a podcast or anything. So I don't know. I'm just kind of interested to hear everyone's perspective now after he said that. I haven't done the research myself. I'm fucking just asking people, being lazy. But
well, that's a great way to learn too, man. And then compare that against what you find works for you. That kind of like we were talking about earlier. I remember when I first was learning about insulin, I listened to what Dave had to say, and I actually, other people I knew were running it this way too. At the time, he would start with like 10 units of Humulin R or Novolin R with meal one, and then 8 units like post workout later if you're training later in the day. So he'd just keep your day covered with that. And that's the way I ran it. And it worked. Like, it definitely worked. I did find myself becoming and there's a lot of factors to it. It wasn't just the insulin, but I did get some pretty decent insulin resistance in those cycles where that 10 units definitely, like, now I'm at 20 down the road and I'm still not going hypo. Like, is this okay? So there were definitely, like, I prefer having more control personally.
Okay. Do you happen to be using any peptides right now, or any that you're a proponent of?
Oh, dude. Yeah. So big one that I think that, like, people are really on, they're either into it or not into it, is SLU-PP332.
Mm-hmm.
So I had gotten the long bug, as I'll for YouTube's sake, I'll call it that. I had gotten sick with the bug in the end of 2020, and it was like the OG version that was actually like the one that unalived my ex brother-in-law. And it was bad. Like, it really messed me up. And that's honestly, that ties into what I had to relearn about training and going to failure, because it really did a number on my overall immune system. And I've dealt with a lot of crazy stuff since then, autoimmune stuff related, and pushing to hard failure like totally trigger this stuff. It was crazy. Damn. So I'm like, well, am I never going to be able to train again like that? And that was the battle for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I started discovering supplements that would be beneficial and everything. At first, I was using natural supplements, things like L-carnitine to help shuttle fat into the mitochondria, like to help burn things, like to help burn fats as energy, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And getting into, like, I found ubiquinol to be a game changer for me. And I started like experimenting with high dose, real high dose, man. And I stumbled upon it.
How high for, gosh, dude, ubiquinol? Jeez.
I went up to like 600 and 800, but it was so expensive. And I honestly, I felt like I kind of tapped out at like that 400 number. Like I didn't see much more benefit than that. So I stayed at 400 and I ran 400 ubiquinol for like 2 years, 3 years straight, man. It was expensive, dude.
I'm sure.
Because I found too, like if I used some good high quality brands, I noticed the effect. I noticed that I got less like mental fatigue and fogginess. I felt better overall energy and better overall mood. But if I
which brands did you like the most? If you don't mind me asking.
Now Foods was really good. That was the one I've stuck to the most. And but like I tried to get some bargain stuff. Like I tried to get like, okay, there's some cheap ubiquinol on Amazon. I'm gonna buy this. It's half the price. And honestly, like I didn't get the same effect. So I just stuck with the stuff that I knew. Life Extensions was another one that I really liked. And so anyway, though, eventually down the road, and all the while, of course, I'm talking to my wife Victoria about this, and I brought Vigorous Steve into the conversation. And we had talked about this like in 23, and we kind of nailed down, you probably have some mitochondrial dysfunction. That's probably what's going on here. And I started researching into that and started understanding like why the supplements I've stumbled onto are actually working. And I wanted to share it on the podcast, but honestly, man, like nobody in the bodybuilding space cared about mitochondria at the time. Like it was not something to be talked about. And I brought it up. I did a show and like it got no views. I'm like, okay, so this is just a topic for me. Like I'll just keep this to myself and, continue to experiment. And eventually SLU was the thing I really landed on. And it was once again, Steve, because he knew my situation. And one day he just messaged me, we're talking and he's like, dude, you should really try SLU. And I was just like, all right, whatever. I didn't even research it at the time. Like Steve says it, I've tried everything. I kind of don't even really think this is going to work, but I'll try it. So I picked some up and oh my God, dude, I felt like totally restored. Like, here's one of the things I've noticed is if I trained really hard or if I exerted myself, like I went to the Arnold Classic and we recorded the podcast at the Mutant booth for 3 days straight and met listeners, dude, I would just be wrecked after that. And it would take me literally like 6 weeks to recover. My appetite would go to zero. I'd go to train and imagine if like you just rolled out of bed and you're not awake yet and you get on the bench press and you try to start benching. Like you're not warmed up like that's the way my body felt. And I'd get on the treadmill and I'd walk for a half hour and my heart rate wouldn't get up. And it was weird, man. It's like, I just never felt like I could get up, So getting on SLU like totally alleviated all of that, man. So finally I'm able now, this is like two years ago, over a year ago now, it was actually beginning of 2025. So over a year. I was able then when I started this, I was able to get consistent because like now I'm not hitting this point where it just crashes me down and from getting sick or whatever. And I was able to get consistent. I lost like 30 pounds of fat. I started rebuilding muscle. I started like getting my diet consistently. Oh my God, man. It's been literally the best year because of SLU. So yeah, I'm a huge fan, man. A huge fan of it. Still, we get people who comment and they're like, you still shilling that SLU stuff? It doesn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. You just, you codes and this and that. And I'm like, what? Okay. Okay. Yeah. And guess what, dude? I don't expect everybody to get the same benefit. I don't think that everybody's dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with.
That's
you know what I mean?
Say. Yeah.
But sure. I do see in my situation how like, okay, yeah, I can see how this would be beneficial. And if you do have any type of maybe down regulation of mitochondria, maybe there could be some benefit. Like, are you getting older? Have you had like a lot of stress and, in your life? You'd be a benefit of this. Are you somebody who lived hard through your 20s and 30s and now you're in your 40s or, whatever? Right. Shift workers who have just been destroying their body for 8 years straight. Like, hey, maybe you could benefit from it too. You could try it and see, My only advice on it is to keep the dose moderate. Like we still don't know all the ins and outs of this stuff. So I found low dosing works for me, and I'd rather try to keep the least, just like steroids. I want to take the least amount to get the effect we want. I don't want to see what's the most amount we can handle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I also believe that it's going to react differently for each person, depending on like what you're dealing with, right? But for me, for example, I'm still relatively on the younger side, and I noticed particularly having huge benefits in my energy.
Okay.
And this includes my mental space too. When I was utilizing specifically SLU, SS31, MOTS-C, and 5-amino, and NAD plus at the end of my prep, and in places and periods during my life where I feel just really fucking exhausted, just like, but in the type of exhaustion that's like there's so much on my plate, like it just feels like a lot of allostatic load maybe. But those are always periods of time where I feel like, okay, well, this helped a lot during prep, so maybe I'm going to try this again, and I'll implement something like SS31 if I feel like I'm just like my body is not running very well, and then use something that improves my mitochondrial function afterwards. And I find like it's helped me quite a bit, honestly, in terms of my energy levels, which is kind of why also I got these peptides from Mike from APR, wanting to experiment this instead of doing the deload. But I didn't experiment properly. I was like, I'm just going to do the deload too, and just do both of it, just to fucking.
It's a good move, man. But I like that move better anyway. You can't beat the deload. To be back in no time,
for sure. But I'm sure both of it's going to help. Plus, I've implemented his thing with the deload, which is along the lines of what was it? Honestly, I think it's. I feel like it could be helpful for some people, so I'm just going to say it real quick. But started using FOXO4 DRI on days 1, 3, and 5 on my deload, and then Humanin starting on day 3 to day 7. Mike was helping me sort this out, and then day 5 adding finally NAD plus, which NAD plus definitely has helped and made me feel a lot better, which also makes me curious, because I feel like, am I like old enough for this to really be working? Why do I feel like this is working so well? So I don't know. I got to look more into it, but I think it just depends on where you are, and if you need to experiment with these, and I don't think they're gonna work with everybody.
Yeah. I've seen people get varying responses. I've seen some people say, like, I've heard like a very random few that have had an experience similar to mine. And then when that happens too, every experience, so like once I started getting these experiences, every client that I work with was like, I want to try SLU. And so I've gone through the whole spiel of like, hey, you might not get the same thing, but yeah, we can try if you want. We put it in at certain places. And so then they start looking at their lives and like, well, what was this person's background? Maybe this guy was a drinker for 15 years, and now he's found bodybuilding. Maybe that's why he's doing so well with it. Whereas, maybe somebody else, younger guy in his 20s, he's lived a healthy life overall. Maybe he's only experiencing a little bit better endurance, and that's all he notices. Okay, yeah, that makes sense too. And I've seen that variety as guys, few people like me. Then I've seen more people that say, yeah, I get better endurance, better mental clarity. And then I've had a few people say like, oh, I just get better endurance from it. That's all I notice. And then there's been a few people that have said like, I don't get anything. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. All right, if you're down, let's just jump to this Q&A.
What do you got, man?
I'm trying to give people more of a chance. Lander says, no question. Love the blood, sweat, and gear pod. You, Andrew, and Skip are the GOAT.
All right.
We have a lot of people actually literally just praising you, bro.
That's cool, man. I appreciate our listeners, dude. We have we do have the coolest audience, like, especially with YouTube. And I'll make this quick, but like when we first went to YouTube, I felt like I was still in this place where like I wanted to people please. Like I wanted like, oh, I want you to like my show, And so it was kind of scary, because then we come to like, we had been doing it off of YouTube for years. So we come to YouTube and we're like brand new, and people are like, who are you guys? Like we've been doing this for like half a decade already. At this point, man, I really don't care if you like us or not. But if you do like us, I'm really grateful you do, man. It's nice to it's nice to have that. So I and our listeners are cool. Like as far as YouTube goes, there's a lot of trolls out there, like, because it's nameless, faceless, all that. You could say whatever you want to anybody you want on YouTube, but like our listeners are genuinely like, we hardly have negativity. I love that. It's like people who just want to do better. It's like people who want to have a good community. Dude, there's so much negativity out there. We don't need to add to it.
Yeah. You guys are also you guys carry a super chill energy, so I think your audience does too. So I think that says a lot.
I feel like I'm all over the place, man. Like, you're just here. You're like, yeah, welcome to the show. You're super chill. I'm over here like,
I guess you guys don't get angry about a lot.
Yeah.
For me, I'm honestly just brain dead half the time, so it's something I'm gonna work on. It's the fucking insomnia, the random insomnia. It's just fire. I will say though, honestly, just not giving a fuck and just deciding to focus on choline health and then just take the sleep aids, like Benadryl and just whatever, fucking doxylamine, that shit.
Yeah.
Fire.
So
then
I just heard
a
a
pharmacist or anything.
There was a pharmacist who was saying that the research, so there was research saying that Benadryl would lead to dementia. Okay. Yeah. And this pharmacist, I have to look into this further because this is just like something I heard on the internet. He was saying that like that research wasn't as conclusive as like people really make that out to be, that there was like that the findings, the actual statistics, it wasn't very significant. So I don't know, like, don't take that as, I'm not saying that's the truth, but that's something I want to look into a little bit more because I've definitely taken my fair share of Benadryl through my life. Yeah.
same dude. Maybe you can connect me with that pharmacist. We can, make him prove this more so I can feel better about myself. I do think like supplementing enough though, like trying to support your cholinergic system through whatever else you're doing, maybe even nootropics and stuff should help you reduce the chance of dementia anyways. So I don't know. I always think that supplementing anyways is good enough, or at least going to help, because you can take up to like 2 grams of choline a day. And how much choline do you get from eggs? Like 150 milligrams. Like, are you really eating like 12 eggs a day? And most people aren't,
I should probably, you got me thinking, man, I should boost mine up.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in 50 years. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm a lot closer to getting dementia than you are, so you can use me as the guinea pig,
All right. Sick. Grant Kill says, yo, after the Skip Hill episode, I was hoping this would happen.
All right.
There's a lot of questions on this, so I'm just going to ask one of them, but
all right.
Yosama, that Jordan dude, they say they're all asking in all caps to ask Scott about inflammation from DHB.
Okay.
I'm wondering if you've seen anything new, any new findings.
Okay, so this kind of ties in along with the equipoise thing that we were talking about earlier. And like I said, that equipoise thing is real early for me. I need to keep digging with that. All right. So it's kind of been believed that DHB causes inflammation. That like, boom, you're going to be up, and then you just would hear it. And that's the thing that gets me is I just be like, I would mention anything on the show about DHB and somebody would instantly be like, inflammation. I can't take DHB, inflammation. and so I started, I had a client that wanted to use it because here's the thing, man, I used it years ago. Like, it was super unavailable, but I had a source that was getting like this weird, crazy shit in like 2010. So it was only lore at the time, and this source gets it. So I get this stuff from him and I'm using it and I did it as like a log too, where like I'm testing it and I'm, taking pictures and posting them on the message board during this contest prep. And I did really well with it. I loved it. And then I used it again in my next off season. Now I did find that some of the shots were it was tricky. Some of the shots would get painful with this stuff. And at the time they had it dosed at 200 milligrams per mil, which is way higher than they do now. And so I said, because there are other compounds that work well, I'm going to write it off. We don't need it. But now I have a client who says to me, you know what, man, I'm hearing of people using it instead of Tren in their contest prep. And I'd love to, give it a try. So we give it a try. And he like, dude, I don't care. Like he you always think of Tren as being like the prep compound, right? Like if you're getting really grainy and nasty, like Tren, you got to go to the Tren. And, so we didn't use it. We used DHB instead. Dude got absolutely peeled. And guess what? His blood work looked good too. Like his blood work looked good. liver, kidneys. We checked inflammation markers. Like everything was okay. Like it was all fine. He was healthy. So I was like, I wonder, man, like, what is this? So anyway, talking about this, I had other clients that wanted to run it. And then we've had other listeners that were starting to run it. And I was having everybody check inflammation markers. I'd say, like, listen, if you're going to run it, can you do me a favor? Let's check inflammation, check your liver before you start. And then let's do it again 6 weeks in and see what's actually happening here. And there was no changes. There was nothing you wouldn't expect from any other compound. So I honestly,
from any of these people?
Yeah. So I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So I've heard of people getting like, oh, my liver values were crazy. All these health markers, my health was way out of whack. But like, there's a whole polypharmacy going on usually when we're leading into a contest prep. And so I just started trying to pick it apart. Is it the drug, or is it the polypharmacy? And here's what I've concluded is that I don't think personally that DHB is any, like, what's the difference between, what's so special about DHB? It's basically like a reduced form of equipoise, right? So what's so special about that particular molecule that's so much different than every other steroid, that this one in particular causes a bunch of inflammation, but the rest of these don't,
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the road that I've been going down with things like some of the dogma lately. And so I don't think that it does. I do think that it is harder to suspend. And I do think that for, if you're getting painful shots, your inflammation levels are probably going to be higher.
Yeah.
And I think this goes back to More Plates did a video sometime back, and he was like, there's very inconclusive evidence. We only have this one rat study that shows that their inflammation was increased. So he concluded that maybe there's going to be higher inflammation from DHB. And I think that just got handed down so that other people then said it. And then if you see high inflammation and you happen to be on DHB, then you'd be like, yep, it was the DHB that did it. Wasn't the fact that you were like 2 weeks out from a show taking all sorts of stuff, was it, can you really say it was the DHB?
Yeah.
It's just been my conclusion,
Okay.
and
That's
then
cool.
from there, it just became parroted, because then people who never even took it, because I started asking, I was like, oh, did you check your inflammation? No, but I've heard, that had been a lot of the answer. And I'm not saying, once again, I'm not saying like, hey guys, run up a bunch of DHB. It doesn't do anything unhealthy to you. It's a great compound for you. You'll do better. I'm just saying that question it and see for yourself, do your own lab work and find out, it might not be what you think it is, that's all.
When did you guys get the blood work for that guy that was using it during prep?
He did it right after prep. It was like,
Okay.
I think even the week after. And then he did it, but we also did it before he started, because we wanted to be really careful with him.
Yeah.
And I've done it with a number of guys since. Like I've seen this a number of guys that they've tested before they started, and then they've tested again 6 to 8 weeks in, and we didn't see anything, dramatically different. So, and that's not to say that it can't happen. And, once again, too, here's the other thing. I think it depends on, I think there's some unpredictability, because I've had some DHB, because I've used it since that I got some, and I like sampled like a TRT plus cycle of DHB, and I've gotten some that was not painful at all. And then I got some DHB that like, oh my God, dude, like I can't sleep on my right side for the next 2 days because my glute is so sore. And I guarantee you, dude, had I checked my inflammation markers then, like, yeah, they would have been high, but otherwise they weren't. So
no, I totally agree with the painful injections. I think that's what's a little bit sus about what we do, right? Is trying to make sure that you're getting a good source.
Yeah.
Super
solvents too. If you're using these super solvents in there, I think that they could be caustic, and that could be a factor. So it maybe it's a more questionable compound, because of those factors. It's maybe not going to be as easy to use across the board as say like test sip, but just consider that, that it's not just been that term black boxed. It's not just been black boxed as like, oh, inflammation, DHB.
Yeah, I got some Prima that was 200 milligrams per milliliter a while back, and Steve was telling me absolutely do not do it for the exact same reason.
Yeah.
And I can tell you those injections fucking sucked for sure. And the area would be inflamed for a bit. So,
Oof. Oh, dude, I bet, man.
I'm very curious too. My personal experience. Oh, wait, actually, before I say this, my last thing I want to ask you was, what else was he running while he was running the DHB? Like, what helped you guys kind of hone down the variables?
I can't remember, honestly.
Okay.
I can't remember now.
Okay. Well, for my prep, I was working with Patrick Tor, and I didn't want to run 150 tread.
Okay.
I was kind of haggling with him to bring it down to 100, just because, you know, all the guests that I've had on, like Steven, whoever, they're like, oh yeah, you need 100 max or whatever. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm just going to keep it at 100. So he argued with me that if I want to bring it down to 100, then he really advises that I at least keep in the 150 milligrams of DHB. I think we were running 300 before I started the trend for prep. And then, so it was 100 milligrams of trend and then 150 of DHB.
Okay.
Now I was running like a full prep stack with this. So, you know, I had Master on and Test in it too. And then towards the end, we added in Halo, and then I convinced him to let me add Winstrol for like my last 2 shows.
Okay.
I really felt like the reason for what I saw in my results was because of all of the anti-inflammatories and the oxidative stress reducers that I was utilizing during prep, including some of the peptides. Like I was using a ton of glutathione, a bunch of this life support from APR, from Mike, and a bunch of other things that honestly just kind of helped me keep my markers in check. Yeah. And then obviously I take all the supplementation on top of that. You know, citrus bergamot, telmisartan, and nanokinase and Arjuna extract fasted in the morning for my blood pressure. Fucking always taking the astragalus root. But got my blood work before and I got it after, and all my markers were in range also.
Really? All right. Yeah.
I think I did feel like, well, except for the liver enzymes. The liver enzymes were the only things not in range.
You're on Halo.
But I was on Halo and Winstrol.
So
exactly.
There's that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but those weren't even that bad either. So I don't know. It's hard to say what it is, but I mean, I feel like you have a lot of merit to what you're saying regarding like whether the injection is painful, and maybe it's not just DHB as an independent compound that is really causing these alone.
Were you happy with that look?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. Yeah. I felt a little bit flat at the first show. I felt like I could have added the Winstrol. Then we added the Winstrol in, and I was like, yeah, this is nice. And I think the judges seemed to like it too, because I had more of that like pop. Okay. More of that anabolic enhanced pop. If you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think it was the best look I could have gotten at that time.
Hell yeah. Then that's what really matters then. And, you know, at the end of it, I mean, obviously health, but then if you can do that and also like you didn't compromise, I guess that's what I was getting at. Is it like, if it's one thing, if you're like, well, my health was really good, but yeah, I could have looked a lot better too. You know, that's one thing. But if you're like, oh no, I was really happy with that. And my health was really good. Like that's a total win.
No, I agree too. Yeah. I will say that I feel like my gut health kind of went down the drain approaching 4th to 6th week of Winstrol. Okay. And I was even on running Retta throughout the entire prep. So Retta didn't affect it as much as the Winstrol did. But everything else was totally fine. Yeah. Felt like I could have run a little bit more for the first show, but the last 2 shows were perfect.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's finish the last few questions. Scumbag Steve says, mention Dave's Pro Charger Fund. He will understand and appreciate it.
It's just an inside joke between it's one of those things. I'm sure you guys have that too, man. We've got so many different inside jokes through the podcast.
Yeah.
And, one of my co-podcasters, Dave, is been just hounding me about like we gotta, you know, donate all the money from Patreon to the get me a Pro Charger. That's the last thing I need in my life. So yeah, that's good though. I was seeing if I could find that picture of the guy in the DHB, because he just is such a crazy look. I'll see if I can find it though. If I can't find it in like 30 seconds, I'll stop scrolling because I don't want to be distracted. And then we'll be done with the show and I'll be like, damn, why did I spend 5 minutes scrolling on my computer when I should have been engaging, you know? Yeah. I don't see it offhand. No. Yeah, I give up.
Okay. All right.
Give up. I'm done. You gotta tell myself that, man.
Marvin Davila asks, I fucking love Scott. What's the most amount of gear that he's run?
Oh God. Yeah. So, man, I pushed it up there. I mean, I ran like a gram, 1.25 grams a test at one point. And I started trend out low at like, low for the old school approach, low being like 200 a week. And I pushed that up to well over 700 because I stayed on it for a while and just kept, it's like, yeah, a little bit more trying. I was like, well, why don't I just take it every day? That'd be fine. You know, I got plenty. How much do I have left? Yeah, I got enough. I make this work. And honestly, like it didn't equate to anything more. And that would have been with about 700 masked too. So and honestly too, that was like, I can tell you, man, that more gear isn't the answer. Like, cause if it was, I would have done better having taken more gear. I'd done better taking less than that, you know, multiple times. So it's frustrating because it's a lesson that you have to learn it on your own, I guess. But we have people that come on the shows, watch the shows, and that they complain that we're like gatekeeping sometimes. We don't hear it as much as we used to, but they're like, no, that's not true, man. Pros are using a lot more than that. Competitors are, and there are guys that are using a lot more than that. But there are guys that are using less, and they just can't get it through their heads. And here's the, like, you want the hard, cold reality, man. If I can't do it on less, then I really don't have any business pushing more. You know, like what's the point of a state level competitor, running multiple grams of gear when like that's what he's going to be? Even like, I don't care who you are, man. And you talked about longevity like early on in the podcast and that being a big part of the sport. Like, do you think that, you know, the guys who had been doing this for years and years, like Brandon Curry, man, he's been at it forever now. And do you think that he's been like redlining it since 2008, you know, 2009, when he turned pro? No, man, like he's taking breaks, you know, and he hasn't had to push it as hard to do what he's doing. Can you push it hard to keep up with Brandon? Not all of us can, but some people can. But there are a lot of guys who have come and gone since Brandon started competing at the pro level. I'll tell you that right now. A lot of guys that were like household names that, like, you ask people today, they don't even know who they are. There's been like multiple generations of those people because you just can't redline it like that for that long. It just doesn't, your body gives out.
Yeah. I was having this convo with Dave and Steve too, but I also believe like taking breaks are actually more beneficial for you. Like you'll make more progress by taking breaks. I mean,
dude, 100%, man.
All the old heads did anyways too, right?
Yeah.
Some of those breaks are hard to believe though, for sure though. Like fucking, am I thinking of it? Brain farting again. Fucking sleep.
Well, like we heard that like Dexter took time off. Ronnie took time off.
I'm thinking about someone who said like basically his whole off season, he was basically off the entire time. Or like a majority of the entire year. He only and like he said that about training also. You guys know who I'm talking about. I'm just fucking
Lavroni
right now. Yeah, Lavroni.
Well, Lavroni looked off too, you know, like he looked off at times.
The crazy part was him saying that he's not even training though. That was the craziest part for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he looked like it sometimes. He just like, he was such a master of that. But hey, listen, what would have happened with Lavroni, and we never will know, if he would have, say, stuck around if he trained year round, I'm not saying hammer the sauce year round, but you know, if he just kind of pushed year round, where he was so close, man, I feel like he could have done something with that. Could have been, well, he did something with it. I'm sorry. He could have taken it further. He could have been Mr. Olympia.
I mean, I think taking breaks from training is good too, honestly. Like, I really think the only difference between a deload and taking a full break off of training, like say if it's a week long, is really that you're still including some motion, which hopefully should maybe help some of your tendons or just like joint health and tendon health and etc.
Yeah.
And still keeping in some familiarity, maybe some mentally, maybe if you're like a type A or something, like mentally at least you're still going.
Yeah. I want you to talk to some of my clients about this, because I got some guys, man, who they don't want to take, you know, it's hard, dude.
It's hard to, bro.
Yeah. It's hard to take time off.
Yeah. All right. Let's ask a couple more.
All right. What do you got?
ZDY asks, world's colliding. So hyped for this. Ask Scott to post more OG photos of himself.
Oh yeah, I'm terrible for that. Oh, I got that picture, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna see it.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I had to keep scrolling. So this is a state level guy. This is Matt Marshall, okay. And I've shown this on my show. Let's see here. Go with this one. So he's not the kind of guy who's ever gonna like win anything big,
Jesus,
right?
Dude, what the?
But he absolutely freaking loves the sport,
Holy fuck.
He lives and breathes this thing, man. And that's what bodybuilding is really about. So yeah, we got him freaking in good shape for that. And
what the hell?
This was like his third show. Like we did multiple shows this last season. Mm-hmm. And this isn't like light. There's lighting, yes, but it's not photoshopped. It's not like he's not trying to alter this in any way. That's just what it looked like, man. It was so freaking nutty, dude.
Yeah, that's freaky as hell.
Yeah, I was very proud of him, and he's one of those guys, man. Listen, he's
never
gonna. Yeah, he's never gonna like win anything big. It's not like he's going for his pro card, but like he had to go to Singapore for a week for work the other week, and guess what? He took all his food with him. He went to Korea one time for 3 weeks, and he packed an additional suitcase and brought all of his meals with him for 3 weeks.
That's
dude.
Sick. Holy shit.
I was like, dude, if you want, man, you
insane.
can eat off plan. Try some Korean food. And I don't want to. I just want to eat my diet food. I was like, okay.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's cool.
Gons Julian says, thank you. And I love this podcast and the Big Bodybuilding Podcast.
Hell
Thanks,
yeah.
brother. Jarders asks, contest prep versus off-season dosages, which is higher and why?
Oh, so we just got into this. Interestingly, because, okay, here's an example, man, of where people have different perspectives, and neither of them are wrong. Kubichelin, he's like 280 something right now. He said, I run less gear in my off-season. That allows me to push. No, wait, excuse me. I run less gear in prep because all I'm doing is trying to support muscle. I run more gear in the off-season. That's when I'm trying to grow. Dusty Hanshaw ran minimal doses through his off season and then ramped up. And his whole thing was that you can only have, we've got 3 things, right? We've got training, we've got food, and we've got gear. And you need 2 of those 3 things in at all times. You can't ever just be relying on one. Mm. And when you're dieting, you don't have food. Boom. That's where he turns up the gear. So, and he would grow into the shows because that's when he would get stronger, like all the way through the prep. He'd continue to get stronger, and he's an anomaly. Don't get me wrong. Like he's an absolute freak when it comes to strength. He's still strong as hell, but on the other end, Kuba's absolutely right. And so is Dusty.
Yeah. This shit drives me nuts, bro.
So, what works for you, that's really what it comes down to. Because I think their style is a little bit different too. I found that the thing I have to watch out for is that the thing I'll say is that if you're dieting and you're competing, you got to be careful because you'll want to take more. You'll go into that contest prep a lot of times, like I've been there, and that's how I ended up running that highest dose cycle. You start out with like, I think I'm going to take it easy this time. I'm just going to run this, and this, 300 milligrams each. And then you're like, what? What if I bump that to 450 now? What if I add this in? What if I throw in the halo? It's like you get competitive, and you want to be your best. And we can't help but feel like more is going to be better. So I'd say word of caution, watch yourself going into that.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like most people these days will align a little bit more with Ron with taking more during prep. I think some of the logic around that is part of your stimulation of growth is the food. And you're also normally in your off season for a longer period of time. So you're trying to manage health markers throughout that entire process. But then again, you could kind of say the same thing when it comes to health with your prep, because that's normally where you're people will say that's where you're running the gear that'll tear your health up more, but then you're also more on top of shit. You're also doing more cardio, so you're keeping your lipids in check. I don't know. Yeah, it's back and forth, bro.
Yeah, I feel kind of like, honestly, like maybe right at the end, if we are adding orals in, then yeah, I don't use orals really in the off season much. I'm not a big believer in that.
I don't either.
Okay. And so if we're not using orals in the off season and we're using maybe similar doses as we did in the off season, but of prep compounds, and now we're adding orals in, then naturally the doses are going to be higher in prep. So
yeah,
but that's right at the end. You know, you're not doing that at 10 weeks out. So
no,
I'd say the same, more or less the same. I don't know if you have to go higher in one than the other personally.
I was going to say mine is pretty close to the same, especially at the beginning of prep. And then you slowly titrate up with the compounds. Hopefully you're taking forms of orals like Winstrol in an injectable form, something Steve and I were discussing.
Really?
That would be more optimal if you could. That way,
yeah.
Like Steve honestly believes he's a proponent of just keeping all orals out. And if you can use an injectable form of one of these that you know is a good source, then use it.
Okay.
But
I don't do that. But that, you know what? I'm not going to say that's wrong. I would prefer the oral because I'm tired of pinning by the time I get to the prep. Like, no, for real, man. Like I feel like, especially if you're doing every other day or everyday frequency, and if the doses are, you know, accumulating, then I want, number one, I don't want to have to deal with one more injectable. And then number two, I guess I look at it as like a cost to benefit. You know, I understand that there is going to be some deleterious effects to, you know, an oral compound, that maybe you can kind of skirt that with an injectable. But I'm like, I weigh it out, and I'm like, okay. And then my answer would be, let's look at the dose, like that's maybe what do we actually need to make this work? Do we need to run 100 Winstrol? We run less than that, like what do we actually need and how long do we need it for? And then it's a calculated, I guess, risk. I would say. That said, if somebody came to me and they're like, hey, this is what I want to do, we could work around that, like we could totally make that work too.
Cool.
I don't see a problem with it. Now, the only downfall I'd say is that a lot of times if you're using an injectable oral, they do use super solvents. So like everything I've ever used that's an injectable oral is suspended in like glycol or something crazy that you draw that stuff out of the vial and it just smells like some sort of chemical Band-Aids or something. And then after you've taken 3 shots of it, it's like on your breath for the next 2 weeks. So if that's the orals you're using injectably, then I'd try to steer you away from that,
Yeah.
No super solvents. But I don't think Steve would be a proponent of that. So
no, he's not.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I have one last question I ask everyone at the end of every podcast. But if you were to disappear from the world tomorrow and you had one message you could send to the entire world today, what would the message be?
Disappear from the world tomorrow. So here's the thing, man, is that like one day that is going to happen, and as I age, I recognize that when it happens, there's a chance that I might not be aware that it's going to happen. Like you're laying in bed and you have a heart attack or, something terrible happens. So yeah, one day there is going to be a day that everybody wakes up and I don't. I'll go back to what I had said earlier about trying to help people. What would be my message? My message would be to get outside of yourself and try to add something positive to the world. I feel like I had, I hurt myself mostly, with my use of drugs and my lifestyle and my level of selfishness. I didn't like go out and rob people and stuff. Like I wasn't at that level, but I would have been had I continued doing it. But I definitely took versus gave. I would say focus on giving more than anything else. And, one of the people I think about is John Meadows is somebody that I have always greatly looked up to. And I was never like close. I'm not going to say like, oh, John and I were tight, like, cause people die and then people start like, oh yeah, John and I were talking about this and that. And I was lucky enough to have a number of conversations with John, and he was friends with my circle of people. In fact, he was friends with my wife before I was friends with my wife. And friends with Scott, and like we were kind of in an extended circle, but like, man, I looked up to him so much. He only lived one state away, like 3 hours from me. And I never went down to train with him because I was too nervous. I was like, I don't deserve that. That's one thing I wish I would have done. But the thing about John was he had such a cool energy about him, and he made people feel good about themselves, like he saw the good in you. And I want to try to be more like that in my life, and that's what I would encourage others to do too, is try to be your version of that. Add something positive, because listen, you turn this podcast off, you flip to the next thing, and you don't know what you're going to get. Like, there's some crazy stuff out there, and there are so many people that are just trying to bring us down or suck you into that drama. And like, ask yourself, like, what is that really doing to serve you? And are you contributing to that? Are you contributing to that are you getting in there and commenting? Are you being like, hell yeah, man, tear that guy up or whatever, like, like, are you part of the problem or part of the solution? I think we all see it. Like, we all see that we're being manipulated by media and everything else out there today, big business and all of that stuff. It's like, let's back it up just a little bit and see what can we do to do something positive in the world. How can we make somebody else's life a little bit better? And that's what I try to do with, working as a coach. Sometimes it's to help people that are competitors. Sometimes it's to help somebody just like not have type 2 diabetes anymore, somebody who's trying to like lose 100 pounds. And then with the podcast, man, dude, we reach so many people that you don't even know you touch. There are people out there today that they're like feeling on their last straw, and they need a friend, and maybe they don't have them, but they have this show and they're watching it right now. Hopefully somebody's still watching. We're pretty deep in, but there are people out there that need that sense of community. We give that to them, or maybe we help somebody think of something about their bodybuilding in a slightly different way, that might give them a tool, like we're doing. I think this is good stuff, man. And I think everybody else, I just want to encourage everybody else to keep trying, because there's a temptation, man, dude. And it, like, it would be just as easy for you. And this is the thing I respect about what you're doing, Niall. You're not trying to sensationalize drama and talking crap to, like, build your name. And you're doing such a good job at this, dude. Like, you're doing fantastic at it, man. And you're doing it like just being you, and and trying to bring something good. So I think that's awesome, man. And that's what I want to try to keep doing. And that's what I want to hopefully inspire others to do too.
Thank you, man. I feel the exact same way about you. And I feel like that's also the reason why it's so easy for me, is because I feel the exact same way as you. It's so easy coming from the perspective of like how, like, I needed help, and I still do. And I'm still a competitor myself. So how can I help other competitors and other people that are reaching for similar goals? It's very easy for me to put myself in that mindset, because I'm technically still in that mindset, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it fulfilling, right? Because I was doing influencing and content. And I was like, I'm just like a fucking sick looking physique, let's gain some followers and some shit. That wasn't fulfilling. Like, I fucking could care less. And like, it's cool when people come up to you and they're like, yo, your physique inspired me, or yo, your exercise, I follow those. But something about that feels a little bit too surface level. Something like this, where I can literally talk about like drug use and addictions I've had, or just shit that we're all going through that we can kind of that we can like relate to. I think those conversations I had with my friends, like my best friends that passed away, that changed my life. Like being able to have those conversations with them is the reason why I feel good, and the reason that I am the person I am today. And now that they're no longer around, I feel like that's what I want to carry forward doing this.
Hell yeah.
It's like, we're just a bunch of homies and we're just trying to make it through,
Hell yeah, man. It's good. And I think that there's the people out there that will find that it's not going to be as many or as fast as if you were to talk about who's natty or not, and, call out some guy for doing something that you think is absolutely wrong and deserves to be chastised for. It's like, that's out there, but, and you could do it at any time, man. You could flip the switch, but I get where you're coming from now, I think, a little bit more too. And I know that I would not sleep well at night if I were to do that stuff. Like I would not feel good on I would not rest easy, man. I don't think you would either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. I got to ask this, but we're going to have to run one another day at some point soon, because there's so much more I would want to ask you. And I feel like I was
absolutely.
like at like fucking 30% capacity today. I don't want to give you my all next time. So
Oh,
if you're down,
all right.
then we can even save some of these Q&As for that.
Hey, that sounds good, dude. And I would love to get you over on the channel too, man, over at Think Big, and like get you on with Ron and Dusty and just cut it up and have some fun for an hour.
That'd be sick, man.
We'd
That'd be
love to
fun.
have you, man.
Thank you, bro. Well, let me know if you ever need anything. Fucking goddamn,
All right.
dude. I just
You too,
started
man.
getting, it's just started getting fucking flies in this fucking house, man. I just moved in. God, I'm so pissed. All right. I'll catch you later. Peace, bro.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you, man. Thank you.